her if she say, oh wow, she said that truly not my style. I might be here for tonight, but baby I'll be gone in the morning light. Take me away to my favorite place where I don't have to grow up and stay this young forever. Baby, can you play this game to all you too busy growing up to be something you don't wanna be? Anywhere except where you gotta be tonight. Oh, you don't wanna be anywhere except where you gotta be tonight. Wherever you are tonight, I wanna be by your side. We can stay right here and get your next flight. And does it matter? And does it matter? Take me away to my favorite place where I don't have to grow up and stay this young forever. Baby, can you play this game to all you too busy growing up to be something you don't wanna be? Anywhere except where you gotta be tonight. Oh, you don't wanna be anywhere except where you gotta be tonight. I wanna be wherever you are, wherever you are. I wanna be wherever you are, wherever you are.
It's just the way I can't keep you honest like you're coming clean. It's just the way you seem to be addicted to leaving me. It's just the way now that I can't sleep at night. Now that you're gone, it's just the way you don't know which direction I was coming from. It's just the way I can't seem to tell apart all of your rights from wrongs. It's just the way now that I know that you're lonely. I know you'll only lie to silence. Lie to silence. Convince yourself you think you're better now. Try to pretend again. You know, I know.
Let's go!
High atop the Appalachian Mountains sits a triangular temple of speed. 3 very different corners and straightaways long enough to land jets on it. This tricky track presents a unique challenge that we come to today. Welcome to One2Go Studios coverage of the Area Lodgebox series presented by One2Go Studios. You've heard that right, folks. The Lodgebox series is able to visit Pocono, Pennsylvania today in the iRacing Simulator for race number 9 of the season, the Appalachian Mountains 175. As always, I am Eric Wineland, joined tonight by Jacob Bell and Harold Darner. Jacob, glad to have you back in the booth after the off week from Darlington. Such a unique contrast to a track that was too tough to tame to a tricky track with Pocono and its unique corners.
Yeah, it's definitely, like you said, a stark contrast between the last two racetracks that we're visiting. Darlington last week, awesome race there in the Lodgebox series. Lots of different action up front, lots of good racing. Thought maybe, we might see a first-time winner in the Lodgebox series, and heading here now to Pocono tonight, it's another opportunity for these guys to get back on track. We got a really stout field at the top of the practice charts, so I'm looking forward to tonight's race. 70 laps. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, 70 laps, as Jacob said, around this 2.5 mile triangle-shaped racetrack, with quite a variance in banking across the corners. Turn 1, 14 degrees, modeled off of Trenton Speedway. Turn 2, 8 degrees, modeled off of Indianapolis, and of course, turn 3, the long sweeping turn 3. Modeled off of Milwaukee Mile. And that's it. Only 3 corners, not 4 tonight. I'm sure you'll hear us make a mistake on that throughout the night. Jacob, Cameron Hearn has won on every different type of track this year, but this is a different type of track. He's got 5 wins this season already. Can he make it number 6 tonight?
Right now, the answer has got to be yes. He's sitting 3rd on the practice charts, and you mentioned it. He's just been so quick at almost every style of racetrack we've gone to, really with the exception of the road course, and that was just such a wild card for everybody in this series. So tonight, I think Cameron Hearn, he's got to be the favorite coming off of the win last week at Darlington. The momentum's there. He looks fast already in practice, but Alan Elwood, man, one of those guys who we've been talking about all season long. When's the luck going to turn around? Well, the last few races, he's led way more laps than he has the first half of the season, and I think Elwood is going to be somebody to contend with as well.
And he just punched the fastest lap on our leaderboard of 54.412 at the top of the board there. We'll bring in Harold Darner, our producer here at Want to Go Studios, the man who's seen the other 2 Pocono races so far this week in the Swift Lifestyles Pro Series and the Northern Capital Truck Series. Harold, what do we expect tonight at Pocono? We did see a late race yellow change the complexion in the truck race last night.
Well, definitely, we're going to see a lot of different type of racing styles going on today. Swift Lifestyles started off pretty calm. The guys pretty much got single file all around the outside edges of the track and went green for the entire duration, which is pretty cool watching our developmental series getting all the way from green flag to checkered. And then on the truck series, they were going 2 and 3 wide from the beginning of the race, which we thought we had early cautions, but they did not until like the last 15 laps. And we did see contact made in the tunnel turn, which turned into a lot of cars, or a lot of trucks flipping upside down. So I guess we got both ends of the spectrum. We've got the ability to go long green all the way to the end, and we also have that ability for something like a Talladega, the big one, happening.
Absolutely. We'll have to keep our eye on turn 2. As Harold said, big one last night in the race control booth. I had to decipher what all happened, and it turned to be pretty damaging to a lot of guys' nights. Something that the drivers tonight don't want to see. As we take a look at our playoff picture here in a few moments for you guys. And as we said, Cameron Hearn winning 5 times this season. Clearly going to be the 1 seed going into the playoffs. Jacob Bell, not too many races left, just 4, including tonight, to try to lock yourself into the playoffs.
Yeah, and there's very few drivers outside of the playoffs that are trying to lock themselves in that are still eligible. So you got Rick Christensen down there, the 13th driver. He's not even in the field tonight. So obviously it's going to be a big hit in the points for him. Andrew Player, though, 15th on the charts. He's 52 points back, which sounds like a wide margin, but all things considered, he's ran really well recently. I would watch that 13 of Andrew Player to somehow find a way to get inside the playoffs before it's all said and done.
I wouldn't count out Alan Balancino as well, plus 4 spots just in the standings from 2 weeks ago at Daytona Road to the standings following not Daytona, Darlington. last week. So Allen doing everything he needs to, though he does need to make a minimum start requirement in the series as well for regular season starts that he has not yet met. So we have to keep our eye on is make sure he gets there the rest of the season if he wants to make sure he stays in this playoff picture. Jacob, what does a driver like Kyle C or Ricky Springer need to do to make sure they don't fall out of the picture?
Well, for Ricky Springer, the obvious first step for him is going to be showing up, which he is not tonight. We got word that he's actually not going to be able to make tonight's race. So the substitute for him is Alan Balancino, fittingly enough, for Go Slow Racing. However, Kyle Seek, he is in the field tonight. Right now, he's sitting 12th on the practice charts. He's just got to stay consistent, try to stay out of trouble, try to keep that car clean, and make it to the end of these races. You see the points gap, like I mentioned, back to player and Brian Dixon. You know, it's a pretty fair margin for him. So as long as he's finishing these races, I think the 39 car is going to be right on track for making the playoffs.
So Jacob giving us a little knowledge there that Allen unfortunately subbing tonight. So he's not actually getting himself a start for his chances at the standings. Side and Fun and Elwood also with wins this season. Side and Fun at Daytona on the oval and Elwood at Daytona on the road. So fans, make sure to check out that QR code and scan it with your mobile device. If you're watching on your mobile device, well, just take a screenshot and scan it at a later time. Go donate to the American Red Cross. Jacob, I know it was kind of close to your part of the country. Tell us a little more about why we are pushing this initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. I went down there and I see the links are already down in the chat. So if you guys also can't scan the QR code, like you're watching on your cell phone or whatever, go down to the chat. There's a link to donate as well. But yeah, you mentioned it. We had those tornadoes, you know, last weekend in the Midwest and southern states that impacted a lot of people. So we wanted to figure out a way to help. And we decided the best course of action was going to be to host a fundraiser race on Friday night that we're lucky enough to have our producer, Harold Darner. He will be there to help cover that event. It'll be live here on this Twitch channel. 8 p.m. Eastern is when the lobby's going to go up. And it's all about having fun. It's about getting all these drivers you see Monday to Thursday in area and getting them all out there on the dirt track at USA and some dirt street stocks and putting on a good show and having a lot of fun. And most importantly, raising money for a great cause. So all donations, they go directly to the Red Cross. We're up over $540 already raised, which is absolutely incredible. So we had to set a new goal. We're up to a $1,000 goal now. And I think Friday we're going to have a huge influx of donations as well during the live stream. So invite you guys to at least come and watch it. If not, you know, be able to take part in the race. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
Of course, as always, if you are unable to contribute in ways that you would like, well, there's other ways that you absolutely can just by viewing. You help us out each and every day. Of course, always make sure to pass on the word as well to your friends and family if they want to come out and watch some racing action. Final 30 seconds of practice here. We'll get a look at our LottiesTravelWorld.com weather here in the Appalachian Mountains. Mostly cloudy today in the sim. 78 degrees is the air temp. Tracks up to 81 with these drivers out here putting heat in it. Humidity at a nice even 55% and winds out of the west at 5 miles per hour. Won't really affect these drivers around this straightaway or this racetrack. A little bit of help down the straightaways, specifically, I believe, Long Pond. But Jacob, practice is over so far. We've been able to keep an eye on it ourselves. And of course, the guys watching the stream may not have seen too much because we were covering a lot of other things we needed to. But do we expect to be fast here in qualifying?
I think Alan Elwood, obvious favorite. He was over a 10th quicker than second place when we looked at the practice results. So an awesome lap for Elwood to get up there and run that time. So I think he'll be bad fast tonight here in qualifying. But we're gonna have to see who we get out here on the racetrack, and we'll have to see how it plays out. I think the normal front runners, you see Connor O'Kresick, the 14. He's another one who's qualified really well this season.
So a couple drivers choosing to go out early here. David Weishart, Ed Robertson, Brad Slaughter Jr., Kyle C., Gary Wells, Garrett Grant, and Connor O'Kresick all hitting the racetrack so far. 10 minutes to qualify for these guys.
I was gonna say quick update because maybe I either didn't refresh my page or the donations are still coming in, but we're actually up to $577 now raised. So I appreciate everybody donating and helping out the cause with the American Red Cross as well. But we got qualifying to cover, so let's get back to the action.
That's awesome. Connor O'Kresick has been served a disqualification from qualifying for conduct scrutiny. So O'Kresick, if he's gonna win this race, he's gotta do it from the back.
It's not something too rare, right, Eric? We've seen that a few times throughout the season where somebody, either mistakenly or purposefully, that the intent does matter a little bit there. But for whatever reason, we've seen some DQs happen and some people have to start at the back, and O'Kresick's going to have to be one of those guys tonight.
Yeah, conduct scrutiny set on severe in all area races. So Connor, even just spinning out doesn't really work out for you.
Yeah.
We'll watch Ed Robertson take the first time. Here off of turn 3 he comes. To the start finish line, looked like a pretty solid lap from the 64. It's gonna be a 54.71. So currently the fastest. He did a little better than Gary Wells there, but I think this lap's going to be the one that counts. Harold, you've been watching qualifying all week as well as the races. Is lap 1, lap 2 been better for the drivers?
Lap number 2, they need to get the heat in those tires a little bit so they can grip better, give it a better launch off the corners.
Yeah, I experienced the same thing last night as well. Lap 2 was my quicker lap, and I didn't expect it. So we'll see if some of these drivers are prepped for it and try to take it a little bit easier on lap 1, knowing that lap 2 is the real money lap. Kyle Sieg, top of the charts, 54.66 for him. Here comes Danny Ware out of turn 3.
Up to the line comes the driver of the number 18 Roderick Racing Development Toyota Supra. 54.79 slots him P4 right now on the leaderboard.
It's a really strong lap time there by Kyle C to get out and run that 54.66. It just gets beat, of course, as soon as I say it. Alan Balancino and then Alan Elwood comes in right behind him and takes the top time away by a wide margin, a 54.53 for Mr. Alan Elwood.
And both of these guys still have another lap to run.
So big times put up on the board. It's the Alan and Alan show right now. We'll see what Alan Elwood can do for the last half of his lap here down through the tunnel turn. Jacob, you raced last night in the Northern Capital Truck Series. What was the hardest part of the course for these guys here this week?
For me, I think it varies per driver. I really kind of struggled in turn 3. It felt like, especially keeping it off the wall. That's point number 1, by the way, is you got to keep that car clean, because as soon as you get any bit of damage, even if it's on the right side, left side, these long straightaways you see, it really affects the speed in that race car. So keeping it out of the wall is step 1. But for me, turn 3 was extremely difficult when it came to trying to pick up time through that corner. A lot of drivers are able to drive it in really deep in turn 3 and still get a fast exit off the corner. And then that's the key point to set up for these long straightaways.
What we were talking about last night while you were racing there between me and Cushy was we noticed a lot of different lines entering turn 3, but everybody exiting at the same spot. Like, so sliding up to that outside retaining wall right at the same point. So like all edges came together. I mean, did you see that as well out there, Jake?
Yeah, for sure. You got to get right up next to that wall on the exit of 3, which is the key point. That's where you got to keep it off the wall, but you also got to use every bit of the racetrack that you can. Here comes the number 54. It looks like Chris Sidefide in. I believe he's starting his first lap. We see a bunch of people coming out here right now as well. I see James Scioli. I see the number 13 of Andrew Player. It looks like a bunch of guys on track.
Go ahead and take us for a lap here, Jacob Bell, in the driver's seat of the 54.
Well, you got the good exit there off of turn 1 for the number 54 here. He's heading down this long straightaway, and the key for turn 2 is trying to just carry as much speed as possible through the tunnel turn. You don't want to give up much throttle time, if any at all. Last night in the Truck Series, I know there were some guys that were able to run it wide open, and gets right up next to the wall there for the 54 on the exit of turn 2. That's obviously going to slow down that lap time. Not sure if he did manage to hit the wall or if he kept it off, but either way, hurt the speed in that race car. So now he's got to set up and back up turn 3. He's going to try to apex a little bit sooner to get a better drive off and down this long front straightaway. And here at completing lap number 1. It's going to be a 54.80, so obviously a slower lap, but we saw the issues in turn 2 from Mr. Chris Seidelfeiden.
We'll see what Chris can do here on lap 2. The driver from New Albany, Indiana, with an 8:08 on his first lap, putting him in, that is, I believe, 12th place, 13th. Danny Ware just goes quicker with a 54.796.
Still see that lap time standing for Alan Elwood, and really no surprise there. A 54.53 on his second lap. Actually, I believe that might have been his first lap. So
I was going to mention that at the end of qualifying, Jacob. It looked like Alan Elwood's lap was actually done on his first lap. Nicholas Trader jumping up to second on the leaderboard as well, as we watch what Chris Seidenfaden can do with lap number 2 off of turn 3 in his purple Twitch car. 54.868. He's actually a little slower on lap 2, so looking like lap 1 the way to go for the Xfinity guys.
Yeah, that's definitely not something I was expecting. I thought lap 2 would still be quicker, but not the case tonight. Chris not able to pick up on that second lap. Little disappointing qualifying effort, I'm sure, for him. James Scioli, you saw him there. He jumped up to the 6th spot in that number 7, so a good effort for him.
Here comes the driver in VR, Andrew Player, one of a couple of different area iRacing drivers that drive in VR. Get a unique perspective of just looking at the headset, but you get to see all the head movement that a driver in VR goes through, like Mr. Player here, as he takes his laps around 2.5 minutes remaining in qualifying. And the conditions really haven't changed out there. We highlighted it was mostly cloudy at the top of the broadcast, and really temperatures have not changed here. The in-sim date is set for November 30th at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Pocono in Pennsylvania, so on Eastern time there. So not a lot of sunlight. It gets pretty cold up here in my neck of the woods of the country.
I didn't know you were a local to that area. That's
3 hours. 3 hours to get to Pocono. If I'm lucky. Of course, all that great Philly and New York traffic that passes through these communities. This has actually become quite a commuter hub for people to go into either New York, New Jersey, or Philly.
Well, we saw a little bit of issues there for Andrew Player in turn 2 on lap 1. This time on lap 2, he gets through there much smoother, so we'll see if it's going to be good signs to come in terms of his qualifying speed. Right now, he's 16th on the charts, but he's coming to complete lap number 2, so we'll see if the time picks up any, and it looks like it will not. He's going to forego that lap time and just pull it down to pit lane.
And with that, Mr. Bell, that's going to conclude our qualifying. No other driver on the racetrack, so we'll give you guys some high aerial shots as we get set for qualifying.
Hey, if you're as an iRacer, if you get a chance to use any of the infield raceways for here, like through the Legends, going through some of the race infield racing, as you see in between all those campers, there's quite a few. There's actually 3 different configurations. The Legends road courses here at Pocono. A lot of fun going backwards down turn 3.
Yeah, and actually I've visited this racetrack, Harold, when they've had some like track days for people, and the Long Pond straightaway section over there on I guess that would be the top right of our screens when we were looking at it there a few moments ago, is actually a pretty popular and fun spot, it looked like. Unfortunately, didn't have a car to go do it myself, but looked like a pretty popular area to be running your car. So that's going to do it for qualifying. Go ahead and bring you the grid here when they grid up in the next few seconds as we transition to the race session. Alan Elwood sits himself on pole, continuing his momentum from Daytona Road 2 weeks ago, and doing everything he needs to do to turn his luck around after some early bad luck at the start of the season. Nicholas Trader is going to flank him to his outside in the 56. Brad Slaughter Jr. making the rare Lodgebox Series Xfinity start. Will start from 3rd, and Alan Balancino will roll off 4th. Kyle Sieg and James Scioli making up row 3, with Ed Robertson and David Weishart in row 4. Rounding out your top 10, Shane Theron in 9th, and And that is the 9 of Zachary Taylor making his Lodgebox Series debut in 10th.
Gonna have Cameron Hearn rolling off from 11th tonight to his outside, Garrett Grant in the number 5. Row 7's where you're gonna find Danny Ware. Outside of him, the 54, Chris Seidefiden. Michael Arch and Andrew Player will make up row 8. Starting inside row 9, Gary Wells making his first start of the season. He's also been a friend up here in the booth as well. Connor Okrezik, we saw the disqualification from qualifying, so he's gonna have to roll off from 18th. And rounding out our top 20 starters, James Shainwolf in the number 83 and Forrest Smith in the 84. Our final 2 starters of the night, Jordan Martin in the number 02, and Adam Capps is going to roll off 22nd.
So 22 drivers make up the field for this Appalachian Mountains 175. Bringing you race coverage here when the grid rolls off in 30 seconds. Final thoughts before we start going here, Harold. So you already mentioned we've had 2 starkly different races so far this week. What do you think the Lodgebox Series will provide us tonight?
Oh, a little bit of extra fuel in these cars, and but this is more known as the driver's car with the Xfinity cars. So I see these guys a little bit more experience up here. They're going to go to that first green flag pit stop, kind of get a little easy to kind of figure out their cars, and then wait towards the later half of the race to actually, try to move up for position. As long as stay on that lead lap is the big concern here, and then go from there. But we'll see how they work out today.
And pit stops, Jacob Bell, are going to be key because if you're toward the front, you do not go a lap down when you make a green flag pit stop.
No, you definitely don't. And we even saw it on Monday's race and Tuesday's race. A lot of people even, within that 10-second range of the leader were able to make their pit stop, come in, get their 4 tires and fuel, and come out and not lose that lap either. So coming out in front of the leader, that's a key point as well, because as long as you can stay on that lead lap, you're in the clear as far as any cautions coming out, anything that might negatively impact your race. It's a lot easier to overcome when you stay on the lead lap.
Absolutely something to keep our eye on tonight. The grid rolling down Long Pond straightaway. Go ahead, Harold.
I would say that basically the only issue that I saw last night, unusual to the fact, was we had last night and a couple drivers on Monday night having issues getting on the pit lane, and I experienced as one of the easier pit lanes to get onto. Jake, what did you think out there?
No, I think you're right. I think we saw the issues getting on a pit road. A lot of it had to do with just the aggressive nature of these drivers trying to get every possible second they can get, every 10th of a second they can get. So they were coming down the pit road, locking down the tires super hard, trying to not lose as much time as possible, and led to some issues. We'll see if that comes into play tonight.
Keep our eye on that tonight. Gentlemen, I'll come back to you in a few moments' time to talk strategy once we get settled into the race here. The pace car getting ready to make its left-hand turn off of turn 3, not turn 4. What turn 4 here at Pocono, and releases the field into the hands of Alan Elwood. Green flag in the air. We're green in the Appalachian Mountains 175.
Good start there by Alan Elwood. He's going to be able to jump out to the lead and take his teammate Brad Slaughter Jr. along with him. So move the 81 now up to second. Nicholas Trader back to third as they're still jockeying for position outside the top 5.
Pretty much 3 wide through the front stretch off the start. Something we'll talk about a little later on, and through the Long Pond straightaway. Now we see Alan Elwood through turn 3. He'll come around to lead lap 1, but the battle is on for 4th.
Yeah, not the start you wanted to see for Nicholas Trader and team and fans of the number 56 car. Started second. He's back outside the top 5 in less than a lap now. So Nicholas Trader head in the wrong direction. He's still under attack from James Scioli and Kyle Sieg as he heads down into turn 1 on the outside of the racetrack.
See him weaving in and out. How difficult is that going to be, Jacob Bell, for drivers on the outside through these corners?
Yeah, the outside, definitely not the preferred groove, and you can see still side by side. So this is the second lap in a row now where the 56 of Nicholas Trader has been hung out on the outside in turn 2 probably one of the most difficult tasks in all of racing at this racetrack is to hang on and hold position too wide through the tunnel turn. He did so, though. He's able to clear the 7, so he's finally single file for the first time in this race. But here comes the number 2 now, David Weishart, looking to get around James Gaioli in the 7. Lap 2 in the books. Alan Elwood still out front.
Being on the outside was something that we saw trigger the big one in the Northern Capital Truck Series last night, with Andrew Sansto and Matthew Robertson tangling late in that race. Got a move here for P8 between the number 9, Zachary Taylor, making his debut, and Shane Thieren in the 38 was able to cut right underneath him, but looks like the run did not go in favor of Shane Thieren. Here comes Ed Robinson to the outside.
Yeah, Ed Robertson, he's been getting better and better each and every week, it feels like, in this Lodgebox series. So that 64 car off to a strong start tonight, already well inside the top 10. He's running 9th. He's got that number 9 that you mentioned, Zachary Taylor, making his debut tonight right in front of him here. These drivers coming off of turn 3. Looks like we might have a battle starting to form up for second place. It's Brad
Oh,
Slaughter
contact
Jr.
in the wall. Goes the 64 of Ed Robertson and the 38 of Shane Thieren. And looks like Thieren is it got the worst of the circumstances as he loses 2, 3, even 4 spots now as Kyle C gets by going into turn 1.
You see the right rear damage on the 64 there in that one shot we had. Pretty significant. So that's going to hurt the speed of Ed Robertson. I was just talking him up. Well, now that's going to affect that speed and the handling of that car all night long, especially on these straightaways. You'll see everybody's just able to power on by him with that damage he's got. It's almost like a parachute on that right side of the race car. But you also mentioned the 38 of Shane Thieren, damage to his machine as well, but looks like Ed Robertson might have got the worst of it as far as impact on the race car goes. 38 definitely lost some track position, though. Oh, and he's getting contact now with the 13 of Andrew Player, and a hard hit to the outside wall for both of these drivers. It's going to trigger the first caution of the night, and that's going to be the end for Shane Thieren and Andrew Player tonight here at Pocono. Oh, my.
Get a look at our One to Go Studios replay.
And talk about going from bad for worse for the number 38, right, Eric? I mean, that's just a tough.
Absolutely. All happening on our screens here. And the shots we're getting from One to Go Studios through the tunnel turn. It looked pretty clean between Thieren and Player. Just Thieren trying to not lose as much track position as he was bound to lose with the wall contact. And over here into turn 3, Andrew Player just decides to hang a left and go for a move that the car just absolutely did not stick for him. Up the racetrack into the 38 and both overcorrect into the outside wall. And that's going to end both of their nights. Early exits for Shane Thieren and Andrew Player. And that's not good for either driver in the point situation, especially Andrew Player, who was well outside, or not well outside the picture, but definitely had a pretty big points gap, Jacob, outside the top 12.
Yeah, and tonight was a big night for Andrew Player. That we talked about Rick Christensen not being in the field, Ricky Springer not being in the field. It was a big opportunity for him to come up and try to steal a lot of points from these race cars, from these drivers, and it just now is not going to be available for him. He's got that huge damage from the contact, and it looks like we got some pit stops, Eric, already.
Strategy being played. We're going to see not a lot come down pit road. So Brad Slaughter Jr. and Alan Ballacino choosing to fake out a couple different drivers. Do have a couple takers. David Weishart in the 2 will be our first. Cameron Hearn in the 15. And then everyone from 16th on back. The 6 of Michael Larch. Of course, Andrew Player just involved in that incident. Gary Wells coming down pit road, as well as Adam Capps and Shane Thieren also involved in that incident. We'll watch, Jacob, here what the strategy is going to be for these drivers. It looks like tires are going on that number 2.
Yeah, as well as the race car right behind him. Only 2 tires, actually, for Cameron Hearn in the 15. Rights only for David Weishart in the 2, though. You mentioned it. It's a 4-tire stop. Everybody else, it looks like behind them that pitted is pitting for damage repair. So I believe those two drivers are going to be the big strategy players when it comes to how this race plays out now.
So that's something we were going to get to, is the strategy of the race. Harold, how far can these drivers get on one tank of gas?
According to my calculations, let me grab up here. It's 24 to 26 laps. So anywhere between that, I think more toward 25. But, and Eric, I just want to put this out there. This is not the calculations from your crew chief, because I think it would be more like 28.
I like it.
Absolutely. So pitting here with 64 to go, Jacob, it can maybe open up some options, some shorter stops under green if this happens to go green the rest of the way for these guys. But they do lose a ton of track position. I just don't know whether it's worth the risk, Jacob.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Eric, on that, because we saw Monday night went green the entire race. I believe that was a 55-lap race. Last night was a 60-lap race in the Truck Series, which remained green for the first 45 laps or so. So the green flag runs is definitely something that seems to be a common theme at a track like Pocono. And an early caution completely throws a wrench in that. So I am excited to see how the strategy does end up playing out. Which, Eric, actually, I guess, second thoughts here on it. If this race does play out with a long green flag run coming up here as they just get 1 to green, maybe it does play back into the hands of David Weishart and Cameron Hearn, albeit, 3 or 4 lap fresher tires, but could that impact them on the long run?
We'll have to keep our eye on it, especially with the 2 tires on that number 15, who is going to restart in the 14th position.
Well, Cam might have saw what happened to Seidenfaden last. So Seidenfaden was short pitting last night and got almost a 3-second jump on Hearn and trying to think who else was out there yesterday.
Justin Gann.
Justin Gann, yeah,
Justin
was our
Gann,
winner.
yes.
But it didn't work out in the last pit. But the first pit stops, it was a huge change. So maybe Cameron Hearn was playing a little bit of defense there, got down there in the 2 tires. We saw that work last night as well.
That's something that Andrew Sansto was on, and actually Cameron Hearn also employed that strategy in that race last night. Unfortunately for Sansto, that was part of the cause of the turn 2 big one being on the outside, though the driver on his inside, Matthew Robertson, just slid up a little too much, going a little too hard there late.
Would
Alan
you
Elwood,
say-
go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off there. Would you say that was wreck of the season, though? I mean, it was probably one of the biggest wrecks I've seen at a track like Pocono.
Definitely need to do some post-race carnage reports, Jacob, because absolutely, I think we had our highest number of cars involved in an incident for the season.
It's got to be
in
the
that-
highest number
in that event.
upside down as well, because I saw
definitely-
at least 4 or 5 trucks upside down.
I definitely think
absolutely.
it definitely wins that one. But we were talking about it last night. We didn't see the big one at any of the tracks at Daytona. So it was funny how this does classify as a super speedway. That this was the one. So we have to see if Talladega beats it out.
Green flag back in the air. Alan Elwood gonna get the jump over his teammate Brad Slaughter Jr. and a little bit of help for Brad. No, he's gonna pull down to the bottom after the start finish line and come help the 49 as they barrel off into turn 1.
Well, you see, somewhat teammates, we'll call them affiliates, Brad Slaughter Jr. and Alan Elwood first and second. Third and fourth, the same scenario with them. Ballacino and Kyle Sieg also running as affiliate teammates here tonight. So Go Slow and VRA as the top 2 teams right now, running first, second, third, and fourth. Then you got James Scioli, the free agent of the series, running in that 5th spot. That number 7 car seems pretty sporty as well tonight.
Significant damage to the number 18 of Danny Ware on the front end. I'm not sure if this is just on my end or there we go. We see it in our picture as well. Yeah, looks like maybe some restart mishap for Danny Ware, and this front end damage will not help the matters tonight as Connor O'Kresick pulls to the inside.
Yeah, exactly what I was talking about with the damage. You saw that they came off the corner about equal, but with any bit of damage on these race cars, the straightaway speed is just completely gone. O'Kresick pulls to the inside and easily clears Danny Ware. Now we'll have to see if Cameron Hearn and the rest of the field can do the same, but I'm with you, Eric. That looks like a perfect example of just a little bit of an accordion effect on a restart led to some front-end damage. Now you see the move being made by Cameron Hearn, kind of the same scenario towards the end of these straightaways. The speed difference is pretty massive. Looking at the way these guys are racing in the first incident we saw with Andrew Player, I heard some drivers complaining
in the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Seidenfaden, 54-18 of Danny Ware, both in the wall. And that actually shuffled Cameron Hearn and David Weishart to the inside of Danny Ware. Hearn going to get clear. Weishart not clear. These are two drivers on fresher tires getting by the 18 of Danny Ware. And it looks like 4 tires is going to prevail early here as David Weishart powers to the inside of Cameron Hearn.
Yeah, you mentioned it. 2 drivers that came down and changed tires. One of them changed 2, that being the Cameron Hearn machine. David Weishart took 4 tires, but right now they're even going into turn 2.
The more I look at it, Jacob, the more I question whether Hearn actually got 2 tires, because he was only stationary for 6.3 seconds in the box. So it might have been a fuel-only stop on that 15.
Well, given how sideways he was and you know how I heard these drivers in practice complaining about the tightness of these race cars, maybe it was a 2-tire stop with the sole purpose of trying to loosen these race cars up. We've seen that came into effect at other racetracks throughout the season, so potentially these guys are trying to affect the handling of their race car by offsetting the tires. I wonder if that'll be a trend we see tonight, but we'll have to keep an eye on Cameron Hearn and how it plays out. Elwood, though, continuing to grow that lead over Brad Slaughter Jr. and Alan Balancino. James Scioli up to 4th.
Based on the time, I kind of agree with you, Aaron. It looks more like a fuel-only pit stop at the 5.8 seconds in the box.
Hey, you get the wonderful box times. I just see how long the driver was stationary. So, Hearn giving up a few tenths of a second stopped before the crew actually finally got to servicing the car. Ed Robertson pressuring Danny Ware. Ed getting that right rear damage. Danny with some front end damage. See what these two drivers can manage out of the race. Sideways in front of our picture there was Chris Seidenfond in the 54 as he comes back up here to the inside of the number 5 of Garrett Grant. That 54, Jacob Bell, was sideways off of turn 3.
Yeah, he was definitely trying to gain all the speed he could coming off the corner there, and it ended up negatively impacting that race car. See a little bit of a battle starting to form up for the 4th spot. James Scioli's got Kyle Sieg right behind him, and those two drivers actually just swapped position a few laps ago. So once again, we see now it's actually becoming a 4-car race for second, it looks like, with Alan Elwood being the lead car way out front.
What's a driver like Alan Balancino got to do here? To the inside he goes for that 2nd spot on Brad Slaughter Jr., but Brad running the higher line should get a little more power down the straightaway, and he's going to get a little bit of help with some friends behind him. No, James Scioli's going to pull to the bottom and push Alan Balancino down the front straightaway.
Yeah, interesting move there. Maybe he's trying to keep those two drivers side by side because he knows that increases his chances of getting around both of them. It's exactly what he's going to try to do now to the inside of Brad Slaughter Jr. And you can just see how tight these race cars are in the center of the corner. They really start drifting up the track. It's going to be difficult all night long for these guys to try to manage that.
Give the 2nd spot to Alan Balancino in the 70, making the move on Brad Slaughter with some help from the 7 of James Scioli. And I noticed, Jacob, new colors on that number 7. It's no longer a plain white car.
Yeah, looks like he picked up some sponsorship from the folks over at Rick's Hot Sauce, and nice looking paint scheme. Elwood Designs, Alan Elwood obviously created that artwork we see on that number 7 car. It's a beautiful looking ride as he's actually losing position now. It looks like to Kyle Sieg for the 4th spot. So the battles inside the top 5 have been pretty constant since the drop of the green flag. The only one that hasn't changed though is that battle for P1. It hasn't existed. It's been Alan Elwood all night long.
Up off of turn 1, confirmation in the Twitch chat, courtesy of one of the drivers that unfortunately fell out of the race, Shane Theron, that Cameron Hearn on 0 tires, just fuel only on that last stop. So cleaning that up for you guys at home that are keeping tally. Cameron Hearn still has the same amount of sets as most other drivers that have not stopped in this race so far. Get a good look at the number 7, the paint that Jacob was talking about. Or James Scioli battling away with Kyle Sieg getting by him now. And then here at the back of the pack, this is more of the closer battle, Jacob. Danny Ware is kind of getting a train behind him with Forrest Smith, Ed Robertson, and I believe that's the 02 of Jason Martin mixed in there as well.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to look low on the 64 now. There's the 84 of Forrest Smith. Speaking of paint schemes, by the way, he's got the Christmas colors on that race car for One Mind to Design. Looking cool. I like the look of that 84 car. He's got the little snowflakes and some Christmas colors going on the 84. So good looking paint scheme there as well as he's trying to hold off Ed Robertson. But you mentioned Danny Ware, that damage is just proven to be pretty significant for him. He's gone backwards since the restart, and it looks like he's going to lose another group of positions now. Oh, contact! The 14 of Connor O'Kresick card into the outside wall. And this was
And the 9 of Zachary Taylor also involved over here off of turn 3. And that does not look good for the driver of the number 14. Connor O'Kresick mixed in. We'll get our One to Go Studios replay. Turn 3, the action spot tonight. Jacob Bell, walk us through what just happened.
Well, you see it. Looks like the number 9 here was racing right behind the 14 of Connor O'Kresick when they were coming through turn 3. I think we're about a lap early here on this. So we're going to go ahead and speed it up and get you right around to it. Obviously, we hear some drivers already talking about the strategy implications of this yellow flag, but we saw the 14 here. You're going to get a look at the replay coming through turn 2. He's got the 9 making his debut tonight of Zachary Taylor right behind him and going down into the corner. Looks like Taylor gets a nice run off of turn 2 onto the 14. He's going to look low, and I believe that move just maybe a little too late and got into the left rear there of Connor O'Kresick. O'Kresick trying to corral it, gets into the grass and back up into the racetrack. How about Garrett Grant squeezing between both of those race cars and snaking his way through that wreck? But O'Kresick hits the wall hard, and the number 9 of Zachary Taylor goes for a slide.
I was going to say, it almost looked like a carbon copy of our first yellow, but it was not. The driver on the inside getting tight. Connor O'Kresick definitely came down the racetrack there. We'll see what race control decides to view. They did give Andrew Player the EOL for the first incident for sliding up. Meanwhile, pit road is open, Harold Darner, and I believe every single driver is thinking about making that stop. Oh,
It looks like lots of people
decide
coming.
not to.
Well, I would imagine we see David Weishart and Cameron Hearn have to stay out, right? Because they can't use
Hearn's
their
coming
second set
in.
of tires already.
Hearn's coming
that's
in.
right, Hearn, yeah.
Remember, Hearn didn't take those tires.
Yep. So Weishart really the only odd man out here when it comes to his tire sets. He's already used one, so he's going to have to try to figure out a way to counter this strategy because it looks like most of the field coming in now and taking on their first set. You see Alan Elwood in his box, Brad Slaughter Jr. There's actually a few guys that have stayed out here. Forrest Smith is one of them, Nicholas Trader, so Kyle Sieg, another one of them, and Alan Balancino. So we got a good mix of strategy up front as the rest of the leaders came down pit road.
I believe there was a blunder by one of the drivers, the 02 of Jason Martin. I think he just pitted before he was supposed to as the lucky dog candidate. So unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get the lucky dog from that yellow. So yeah, you see Alan Balancino, Kyle Sieg, Nicholas Trader, David Weishart, and Forrest Smith all choosing to stay out. David Weishart being the only driver having chose to take a stop already. And that was under the first yellow about 10 laps ago. So only 10 laps since he bolted those tires on, and I'd say realistically 8.5 laps of hard green flag racing on those tires. So quite a bit of difference between he and the drivers behind him, Jacob Bell. That 8.5 laps is a heat cycle, and that certainly is not going to help him try to stay in the hunt.
Yeah, I think, like I said, when we were trying to find that replay there, I heard Weishart over the radio queue up, and he said that caution was pretty untimely and probably is going to throw his strategy right out the window, but he's going to fight, I'm sure, and try to do the best he can the rest of this race. I wouldn't say it's completely shot. If we get a caution here in about 15 laps, I think it puts him right back into the mix because you'll see a lot more guys coming back down and taking their second set, and he'd be able to get on cycle with those guys. So we'll see how it plays out here.
Well, while we have a moment, we'd like to take a big thank you to one of our area iRacing sponsors, Northern Capital. Special thank you to Russ Anderson and Steve Anderson of Northern Capital for their support of the Northern Capital Truck Series every Tuesday night. And of course, all of us here at Area iRacing supporting all 4 series. Northern Capital. Be sure to go check out Northern Capital and thank them for their support of Area iRacing. Race Control going to go ahead and hand out an EOL to the 9 of Zachary Taylor for the dive bomb into turn 3. They decided that it was a little bit too much of a lunge into the 14 of Connor O'Kresick.
Yeah, and I would probably agree with that just because of the difference we saw in the entrance of the corner. It looked like about a half car length in between the drivers. And then the number 9 was still able to get his nose under there, but tough call either way. You know, you could really, you can make a claim either way. So just a tough deal all around. The result, at the end of the day, the result is both those drivers are have some tore up race cars and probably not going to be the ones winning this race anymore. But up front, we got strategy galore with Alan Balancino, Kyle Sieg, Nicholas Trader, David Weishart, and Forrest Smith all staying out on old tires. The first car with fresh tires was our leader for most of this race, Alan Elwood. He's going to restart 6th, so we'll have to see just how much of a difference the tire strategies become before the end of this race.
So the field in the hands of Alan Balancino. We'll let you listen in to the sights and sounds of Pocono Raceway on this restart as well, unless, of course, anything happens. Pace car making its left-hand turn down to pit road once more. Alan Balancino is going to fire off from the lead. Kyle Sieg to his outside. We're under green again here at Pocono. Wide there through turn 3. Tight coming off the corner between Garrett Grant and Forrest Smith. Couple drivers that are on fresh tires trying to make the move as they barrel off into turn 1. To the inside comes James Scioli on Brad Slaughter Jr. and Garrett Grant to the inside of Forrest Smith. And Forrest Smith is really going the wrong way on those old tires.
Yeah, he had a couple sketchy situations. You called it. In the middle of a 3 wide going into turn 3 on 2 separate occasions on that one lap. So definitely going the wrong direction for Forrest Smith, but he's going to have that set of tires in the bank for later on in the race. So we'll have to see how that plays out for him. But up front, I noticed one of the drivers that was making an aggressive move is the 7 of James Scioli. He was actually one of the first guys to get around some of these guys on older tires, but now it's the 15 of Cameron Hearn with the 81 of Brad Slaughter Jr., who's up into the mix. And right in front of him, by the way, the number 49 of Alan Elwood's up to 3rd already.
He's going for 2nd to the inside of the 56 of Nicholas Trader. He's going to try to do it by himself. No toe. 3 wide over here going into turn 1. Brad Slaughter Jr., David Weishart. Oh, my goodness. Kyle Sieg just giving up the outside barely and giving enough room for David Weishart to sneak through.
Yeah, James Scioli's going to be the one to take advantage of that. He's now looking to the inside of Kyle Sieg, but David Weishart, I mentioned he was going to fight hard to try to make his strategy work, and he's still hanging on the best he can, but to the lead. Alan Elwood in the number 49 back up front here at Pocono on lap 21.
It did not take him very long on those fresh tires, Jacob Bell, to actually make something happen, and he's got a pretty nice advantage because Cameron Hearn is the closest to him on fresh tires, and Brad Slaughter there side by side. They're going to split Nicholas Trader off of turn 3. Hearn almost all but getting the wall.
Whoa.
3 wide down the front stretch here at Pocono.
Yeah, that action around Cameron Hearn in the 15 and the 56 and Nick Trader is getting intense. They're still looking 3 wide going into turn 1. Now this time it's Cameron Hearn on the outside, and he's going to power through and try to make that move work. He gets 2 of them up top, and now he's going to look 3 wide under Alan Balancino on the bottom. Cameron Hearn going to 2nd place in a hurry.
A power move for Cameron Hearn moves him up to 2nd, with Brad Slaughter Jr. left in the dust to try to collect his thoughts and get himself back on the forward charge. He does displace Nicholas Trader, and we'll just have to look after getting Alan Balancino right in front of him. But that releases the 15 of Cameron Hearn, a 5-time winner this season already in the Lodgebox series, to head after the leader, Alan Elwood, who is already 1.1 seconds up the road. Meanwhile, at the back, Seidenfon, Sieg, 02 of Jason Martin all fanning out. There's Slaughter and Ballacino going after it at the front. There's Michael Larch and Forrest Smith just still going backward.
Yeah, and there you see the battle going on. Jordan Martin actually 4 laps down in that 20th spot in the number 02, so not really racing for position, but he is impacting a little bit of this race inside the top 20, which is well within his right. Kyle Sieg, there you see him in 39. One of the few drivers that did stay out on old tires, and he's already back outside the top 10, so he's going in the wrong direction as well. Not much of a change out front. You see James Scioli in the number 7 looking underneath the number 70 of Alan Balancino. Balancino and Trader, to their credit, 2 of the only drivers to really hang on pretty strong with their older tires, as well as the 2 of David Weishart, who we did see come in on lap 7.
Fresh tires proving to pay off for these drivers. Harold, does this kind of play in the back of your mind for later in the race in terms of strategy?
If you guys are taking notes on what's going to happen, and I think a lot of them watched last night, and I'm thinking in the back of their mind if they could put a 2-tire stop in here, you know, or as well as the road racing. Oh, we have contact there.
The 5 of Garrett Grant comes up the racetrack into Nicholas Trader, and they spin off of turn 1. We saw 3 wide there through turn 1, and it did not play out very well for the drivers of the 56 and the number 5. We'll get a look at it. Jacob Bell, take us through this replay.
Yeah, not even quite sure what happened watching it live. I was looking at a different battle and then cut back to this one, and we see the 56 go around. You see him there racing alongside. It looks like you got Garrett Grant in the yellow car right behind him. And then right there, Grant tries to cut through the middle, gets a little tight. Looks like he's able to correct the vehicle. I'm not quite sure what happened here coming off of turn 1. Oh, Grant just gets up into the number 56 and sends him into the wall. Looks like Chris Sidefied in also with some contact there as well. Luckily, everybody behind them was able to scatter and avoid the spinning number 56 machine. But nonetheless, it does trigger out the 3rd caution of the night. And honestly, Eric, this is a big, big help to David Weishart.
Hey, he gets a chance to flip the strategy once again. This yellow coming with just inside of 46 laps to go. It'll be 45 when these guys get back around to the line to come down pit road. We'll see what the strategy change is going to be. So these guys are given 3 sets of tires to change in the pits. They start on the 4th set off of the grid in green flags. So already used a set for most of the drivers out here. Do we expect, I'll ask both of you, do we expect these guys to use another set here? And we got Weishart that pitted 20 laps ago. Balancino hasn't taken a stop yet. He's out here since the green flag, which was 25 laps. And then the guys that just pitted under the most recent yellow, that's 8 laps already since they put these tires on.
I don't think we see the guys who pitted 8 laps ago, which was a majority of our field. I don't think we see them come down and put on their 2nd set this early. But somebody like David Weishart, who's already used that 1st set and is already on much older tires than them, I think he's got to come down here and try to flip the strategy, as you said, right back to the other guys and, you know, get that tire advantage back in his court. We'll see what they decide to do, though, off of turn 3. Looks like we have the leaders looking to come down pit road, and they do. Alan Elwood's going to lead them in.
Elwood leads Hearn from Ballacino, Weishart, Ware, Grant, Larch, Robinson, pretty much the whole field. It'd be better to tell you who didn't pit coming down pit road here. We'll watch to see what these guys do, because as Jacob Bell said, driver like Alan Elwood, that's only 8 laps on those tires, and I don't know that he wants to take another set this quick.
Do we see a 2-tire stop? These drivers trying to, you know, loosen up these race cars. We'll have to watch. It'll be pretty obvious to tell. I don't see tires even going on the number 49, Eric.
No, 7 seconds for his stop. Cameron Hearn, 6.4 to fill it with fuel. He's actually going to jump Alan Elwood off of pit road right there on the race off. Ballacino does elect to put 4 tires on it. Ware on the same strategy as his teammate in front of him, Alan Elwood. Ed Robertson does decide to take 2, it looks like. 8.4 seconds stationary in the box for him. Adam Capps, though, only fuel in that car. And then the rest of them, Alan Balancino on backward. 4 tires for the 70. The number 2, David Weishart as well. The 6 of Michael Larch and the 84 of Forrest Smith, all choosing to get a fresh set of fuel goods. 26 laps into tonight's action from Pocono. Of course, if you're enjoying the pictures we're bringing you tonight, and a special thank you to Wendigo Studios for that. Be sure to check us out Monday through Thursday here on the Area iRacing Twitch channel. If you want to see an ad-free viewing experience, make sure you hit that subscribe button down there. Racing action pretty much every single week, except for the holiday breaks. I know we get a couple weeks off coming up for Christmas. That the league is letting us have our break, and then we'll be back for Talladega post Christmas break, and that'll be quite the exciting race to come back to. Of course, if you haven't already, make sure to check out the information on Friday night's race here on Area iRacing Twitch channel, the fundraiser event that the league has organized to help raise money for the storm relief through the American Red Cross for the victims of the terrible storm that cut through a lot of the Midwest, Kentucky, up through into places even as far as West Virginia, seeing quite a bit of damage. If you have your phones, go ahead and pull them out and scan that QR code on the right. And of course, check out the Twitch chat for the link if you are viewing on mobile and not able to scan the QR code. We are able to post it in there for you as well. And come back on Friday night. Same bad time, same bad place right here on the Area iRacing Twitch channel for coverage of that fundraising event. Be a little dirt action on the Area iRacing Twitch channel. Something, a little different for these guys. And the dirt street stocks.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun event. I'm really looking forward to it. We've had some test races this week. Lots of test racing this week, actually. I know Harold, our producer, was even in on one of them, and a lot of fun, man. These guys are going to be slinging some dirt up against the wall. We're going to have heat racing, which is my favorite part about dirt racing, is to watch, these guys try to race their way in, and only 24 drivers will start the 50-lap feature event, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But back to tonight's race in the Lodgebox series, we got the number 81 out front, Brad Slaughter Jr. He decided to stay out, and the number 7 of James Scioli elected to do the same. Our first driver that came down pit road and actually took tires, I believe, is the number 70 of Alan Balancino back in 11th. Might be wrong, but
since this track is over 2.5 miles, it's quick cautions here on iRacing. The lights out on the pace car, getting ready to get us back to green flag racing. As Jacob said, Brad Slaughter Jr. is going to lead us to the green flag this time around. He's going to fire off really late and leave it to the last moment, and he's going to get a huge jump because of it. The 81 out front here at Pocono.
And James Scioli, he was getting a nice shot in the back bumper from the 9 car. And look at Cameron Hearn make the aggressive move to the bottom, trying to make some ways to the front, and he's going to do so. He's going to get around the number 9, and now James Scioli is going to take over the second spot. Brad Slaughter Jr. leading them down off of turn 1.
Something we saw yesterday with Cameron Hearn was his ability to come off of turn 3 and do some side drafting on the inside pit wall all the way back and slingshot his way up to the turn number 1. I haven't seen him do it yet here tonight, but he was doing that very successfully. The only one I saw doing it in the truck series last night.
Cameron Hearn, definitely one to watch, pull out a line and try to make moves. Meanwhile, the battle for, I believe this is 9th place, is eating up. Chris Seidenfaden just slid around Alan Balancino, and David Weishart was the front row seat to it. He's looking for the inside of his teammate. Is the number 2 machine.
He's on fresh tires.
Right on board. David Weishart bringing us one of our in-car, in-sim views here on One to Go Studios.
Sansa Motorsports flag in the background, obviously a proud member of that race team. But tonight, David Weishart trying to get a victory for his team, and we saw the strategy get flipped right back into his favor. He came down pit road, he got the tires. Now is he going to be able to put them to good use by making his way all the way to the front? He's inside the top 10, but he's got some stout competition in front of him, and right now he's trying to get around the number 70 here of Alan Balancino. He's also trying to get around the number, looks like that's the 18 of Danny Ware. So Danny Ware's still hanging on, Eric, even with that front end damage. Battle for the lead. James Scioli makes the move to the bottom of Brad Slaughter Jr. going into turn 1. New leader. It's going to be the 7 of James Scioli.
Sliding himself clear is the number 7 of Scioli over the 81 of Slaughter. And meanwhile, Cameron Hearn's just deciding to hang a left and try to get out of the view of the number 9, trying to get after him. not give any draft to the driver behind him, Alan Elwood. Those two were battling away for the top spot just on the last stint. Hearn needing to close in on Allen, wasn't able to before the yellow came out, but the script was flipped with that yellow. And of course, a shorter pit stop for Cameron Hearn put him in the lead, or in front of the 49. This is still your battle for fourth. They got to get around Zachary Taylor in the number 9. In the wall back in the back of our picture was a 54, Chris Seidenwald. He is going the wrong direction. Now under fire from the 5 of Garrett Grant.
Yeah, there you see the 5 of Garrett Grant trying to get around his teammate in the 54, Chris Seidenwald. There's the 9, who we saw get into that earlier caution with the 14 of Connor Kresick, but he's also hung on pretty well, pretty good as well in that 3rd spot. So I was going to ask Eric, what do you think so far of tonight's race? Because I didn't think that we were going to see the caution flags that we did, especially considering this has been one of the cleanest series all season long, but 3 early yellows has kind of flipped this race on its head.
I think you're seeing track position be a huge thing here, and drivers are trying to get every single ounce of it they can. And that's why someone like Zach Taylor is going to just try to hang a left on Brad Slaughter and make the pass. Meanwhile, the battle for 5th, Alan Elwood and Alan Balancino, older tires versus fresher tires going at it here. Alan trying not to give anything up, including that track position, that coveted track position, since it does seem to be so hard to pass here at Pocono.
Yeah, the older tires are hanging on pretty good for James Scioli, Brad Slaughter, and Zachary Taylor. Obviously, same tires as well on the 15 and the 49 machines, but they did come down and elect to fill that car up with fuel under the last caution. So pretty even tires among most of the top runners, with the exception being the 2 of David Weishart. A little bit of tire smoke we saw there getting down at the turn 2. I believe that was from the 9. I'm not quite sure, but I was mentioning David Weishart on the fresh tires. Don't look now, but he's making his way into the top 5.
Balancino sends it up the inside on the 9. What a move. Sliding that car in front of the Chevy Camaro nose. And the Toyota Supra of Alan Balancino's clear. He's going to go onward toward 3rd. And meanwhile, David Weishart left a battle for 5th with that number 9. They head off into turn 1, still side by side for 2nd. Now Cameron Hearn moves up to the 2nd spot over Brad Slaughter Jr., but Brad is not done with him. He's trying to cross him over up here off of turn 2.
Yeah, the battle is really starting to heat up between 2nd all the way back to the 7th spot of Alan Elwood. You got a good pack of race cars trying to make their way towards the front. And now you see Alan Balancino looking low on Brad Slaughter in the tunnel turn. He's going to do that slide job move again. Eric coming off of turn 2. He's up another spot. And now here comes David.
Here comes
Weishart.
another one. David Weishart to the inside of Brad Slaughter through turn 3.
And Weishart's going to make it stick, but he's also got the best tires. Battle behind them between Alan Elwood and the number 9 of Zachary Taylor. We got battles all over the field here tonight. James Scioli trying to run away with the top spot, but he's got some hungry competition behind him. Well, with all the cautions we've had, we've still been not short of any action whatsoever. There you see Alan Elwood.
In the wall, Alan Elwood.
That was a bad shot there.
That flattened the right side of that race car. The number 49, and he's ailing from it. Already giving up spots to... Oh, in the wall goes the 15 of Cameron Hearn to 81 of Brad Slaughter's going to slide in. This is our big one off of turn 2. Collecting 4 drivers in it now. And somehow, some way, most of them are able to avoid. But Cameron Hearn just got pit maneuvered into the outside wall, I think. And we'll have to take a look at our One to Go Studios replay right here to see if there's any sort of netcode incident. It's not often a driver just turns right into the outside wall. So Alan Balancino does get the run on him down here into turn 2. Oh, well, it's definitely not a pit maneuver. A little bit of contact. I mean, the slightest bit there, Harold, puts the 15 in the outside wall.
Yeah, this wreck's got some layers to it. So let's try to break it down here. You see, it looked like Hearn was trying to get to the right side of the 70 and then just hard turn up to the outside wall. He hits it a ton, and Brad Slaughter hits him a ton. But then the second layer to this wreck, which is honestly very important for the outcome of this race, was Alan Elwood right behind them. Tried to get around the wreck and start slowing down, and I believe there was contact between him and Kyle Stieg. Our producers got it hooked up here as we're going to watch Here's the 81. He's going to get into the front bumper head on with Cameron Hearn. And then you see Kyle Sieg slide into the wreck as well, but the contact occurred.
He caught a piece. Kyle Sieg caught a piece of Brad Slaughter, and I think that sent him down. Yeah, it sent him down in front of Alan Elwood. Alan, just an innocent bystander, and Alan clobbered the inside wall. In fact, it looked like the toe broke on that number 49. That is not good for his race. Luckily, he's got a win to lock himself into the playoffs. But a lot of drivers, including Kyle Sieg, not locked in and in a precarious points position, did not need to have that happen to his race tonight. Pit road is open, and most of the drivers look like they're going to take this stop. And guess what? That's going to cycle David Weishart to the lead. So down pit road comes most of the drivers. James Scioli was your leader, enjoying over a 1 second lead. He's going to come to the box. We got one sideways back here. I think that's the 6 of Michael Larch. Not sure if he got help or if he missed his box. He's going to angle it perfectly to still get service on that car. Meanwhile, the race off pit road, James Scioli going to win it easily over Alan Balancino. Looks like Alan didn't have to, the Balancino that is, didn't have to worry about any damage repair. Race control saying most of the incident looked to be more net code than anything.
Yeah.
So unfortunate end of the night for the 15 of Cameron Hearn. The bid to win the 6th race of the season ends right there, and it'll have to pick up and continue next week.
Man, just what is going on here tonight, Eric? We've seen way more cautions in this race than we've probably seen in about 2 or 3 races combined this season. Lots of hard racing. I don't know if it's this track, if it's this setup, but all of a sudden we're sitting here on lap 36 halfway through the race with 4 yellows under our belt.
I'm not quite sure, Jacob Bell, though I do know that these guys are pretty focused and they're working pretty hard, right? So, you know what helps them do that? Swift Lifestyles.
Yes, sir.
Fans, be sure to visit our sponsor, Swift Lifestyles, for clean supplements that help improve your focus in gaming. Make sure you use discount code AREA iRacing. That is AREA iRacing for 15% off your entire order from Swift Lifestyles. Special thank you to Swift Lifestyles for their support of the Swift Lifestyles Pro Series, the ARCA series that runs every Monday night, and of course their support of AREA iRacing as a whole. Swift Lifestyles. Be sure to visit their website and use discount code AREA iRacing. Definitely helping improve the focus of these drivers out here tonight. And that enabled a lot of these drivers in the back, Jacob Bell, to miss that big wreck off of turn 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So taking a look through our season results, there's out of our top 9 drivers right now, David Weishart, Forrest Smith, all the way back to 9th place Gary Wells, who's making his first Lodgebox Series start of the season. Not a single one of them have won a race yet. Connor O'Kresick does have a victory. He's the first driver in the field that has a victory already. So the top 9 looking to get their first ever Lodgebox Series victory. And tonight's a good opportunity for that. We've seen a lot of chaos already. Cameron Hearn, he's out of the race. Alan Elwood, we saw him get a big part of that last caution. He already had a victory. So this is going to open up the field tonight to a possibility of a new winner for the first time this season.
Absolutely. And for the fans keeping track at home, add another tally to the David Weishart vaping on the camera. We definitely had another one of those right there. Thank you to Harold Darner for that production shot as we get to ride on board for the restart coming up. Housekeeping for you guys. Only 3 drivers choosing to stay out and not take tires or fuel under this yellow. That's David Weishart in the 2, the 84 Forrest Smith, who will restart second, and Ed Robertson restarting in 3rd in the 64. All other drivers coming down pit road this past trip. Also got a blinking incident in the back. Race control is cleaning up. Gonna get you restarted with 33 laps to go when they get to the flag stand. It's just past halfway, as Jacob Bell noted, here in the Appalachian Mountains 175. There goes the pace car from in front of David Weishart, and he's gonna fire off early. Green flag back in the air here at Pocono.
Weishart's going to jump out front with really no competition behind him. Second place is going to go to Ed Robertson in the
sideways through turn 1. In the back of our picture was the 11 of Gary Wells. Sorry, Jacob Bell. Gary was sideways. You see in the mirror, David Weishart out to the early lead and holding off Ed Robertson, who has jumped from 3rd to 2nd.
Yeah, it's just been a messy race so far, man. I don't know what is going on tonight. We've seen a lot of chaos and sideways driving, slide jobs, everything. I didn't think we'd see a slide job till Friday. We got some already going on here tonight. They're stacking up outside the top 5. You know, I think one thing that does play into David Weishart's advantage, other than the tire strategy, the pit strategy, all that stuff, he seems to have one of the only race cars right now without a single scratch on it. Everybody else, second even, 3rd place, 4th place, some form of damage. Actually looks like the 70 of Balancino.
Sideways contact. The 9 is going to go around of Zachary Taylor off of turn 1. And that's going to end his night and potentially a couple others, as someone definitely got collected in that incident off of turn 1. The 9 just pitched sideways through turn 1. Harold, I believe you saw quite a bit of this in the replay.
Looked like we got Zach Taylor here. And looks like he was trying to get back underneath the 5 of Garrett Grant. Coming down into turn 1 and exit of the corner, just gets loose. You mentioned it, Eric, and goes right around. And that's probably the worst spot for the rest of the field when you're sideways like that, because he hits the wall and he goes spinning and everybody's got to try to avoid him. It's a difficult task.
And I think he just let go of the wheel and the pedals at that point, as you saw the car turn back down to the inside. He's finally got it righted, but you see smoke pouring out of that number 9, so that definitely is not good for his race. Connor Okresic in the 14 is missing his hood, so that's a killer at a track like Pocono, where it is so aero dependent. Drivers that snuck through that were few and far between. Most of the guys that were just behind it, but Chris Seidenfond in the 54 and Alan Elwood in the 49 also picking up damage through that as well. So not good additions to their night. Chris already having hit the wall earlier in the race, and of course we saw Alan get involved in 2 incidents, the scrape of the wall first, and then that turn 2 incident with Cameron Hearn and Alan Balancino that triggered a 4-car wreck. We'll go ahead and get the field reset. Go ahead.
No, I was saying I'm at a loss for words. I can't believe the way this race has played out. 5 yellows in 40 laps. It feels unheard of in this series.
Yeah, not something we see very often here in the Lodgebox series.
Ever. I don't think we've ever seen it.
So, pit road open. Definitely providing a lot of opportunities for these guys to make pit stops. It definitely opens up the strategy. And when you choose to take those tires, it looks like David Weishart said, we're close enough to the finish. I'm going to take another set. And this would be his final set of the night on that number 2. Going to go on that number 2. If he bolts them on here, we'll have to see whether he's choosing just fuel or putting those tires on. We'll see if the right side jacks up here. There it goes. That looks like it's going to be the final set for the number 2 of Weishart.
I was on board with you. I thought maybe it might be a fuel-only stop, but by the time they do end up restarting here, it's going to be about 26 laps to go, I believe, 27 maybe. So well within the window. It's going to be tight, though, for him to have to stretch it and make those tires last, close to 30 laps. But if anybody can do it, it's going to be the number 2, David Weishart. See a lot of damaged cars out here still running around the racetrack, which is also going to come into a factor if we do get a long green flag run. A lot of lap traffic they're going to have to deal with as well. But Ed Robertson, the 64 now, is going to cycle to the race lead. Alan Balancino, Danny Ware, James Scioli, Garrett Grant are top 5 in what has been a messy Pocono race.
Adam Cap's going to be your beneficiary under this yellow. Pick up a lucky dog and get back on the lead lap, actually, with that lucky dog. He's just now hitting pit road at the top of our picture there. And as Jacob Bell said, Ed Robertson has cycled to the lead. And you know what, Jacob? I mean, if I'm David Weishart, why not, right? You're well within the points. You're like well within playoff picture and a solid points position. He's got some points in hand to take some risks, like deciding to bolt his last set on with 30 to go.
Yeah,
And heck, if it goes green, it pays off.
Exactly. That's the key. I mean, eventually, it doesn't seem like it right now, but eventually the racing's going to clear up, and we're going to get a long green flag run, and potentially this could be it to the finish. And I think you're right on with that point, that if it does go green to the end, he's going to be happy that he did come down and elect to take those 4 tires. But a lot of other people, it looks like, now coming in as we're getting the 1 to green, see a few other takers in the back of the field. Just a bunch of tore up race cars, which is a little disappointing to see. I believe actually the 2 of David Weishart has came back down pit road, so he might be a little bit concerned when it comes to fuel, or maybe even potentially setting up for an overtime. So he's going to come down and it looks like top off that number 2 before he gets back out here on the racetrack for this restart here with just over 28 laps to go.
According to Harold's projections, it was 24 to 26 laps, so we're right on the edge of that window if you can save enough. Harold, I just don't know. I feel like we're a little too far outside of it. Do you expect a driver like David Weishart to save enough?
He was looks like he's making that gamble. While we were in the break there, I went and did some calculations. As of the finishing of 8 races, we have 12 cautions in the series.
Wow.
So averaging 1.5 a race, we're already up to 5.
Yeah, I knew it was high, but that's even crazier to, we've had 12 cautions in 8 races, and we're almost halfway to that number in just 1 race tonight. We've almost had 6 caution flags already. Just crazy. I mean, that kind of shows, one of my favorite parts about this league, obviously, is not the caution flags, but it's the fact that coming into each and every race, you don't know what to expect. You don't know who's going to be the guy to beat. You don't know who's going to end up winning the race. And tonight shows exactly that. I mean, we got Ed Robertson and Alan Balancino on the front row. None of our drivers inside the top 7 have even won a race this season. It's going to be an interesting end.
And another interesting thing I think I heard Eric talk about it earlier. Only 3 drivers with 0 incident points: Ed Robertson, James Scioli, and David Weishart.
And do remember, each driver with 0 incidents at the end of the race does get a bonus point toward their effort in the championship. Back under green, Ed Robertson leads us to the green flag, but it's not gonna be enough help with Danny Ware behind him. Alan Balancino getting a huge shove from James Scioli on his outside.
Yeah, the battle is raging on throughout the entire field. These guys don't care that there's been 5 cautions. They're still going to try to get their way to the front. And you see it with Alan Balancino racing hard on the outside. He's going to have a run going down the back straightaway here and get right up on the back bumper of the 64. 1, 2, 3, 4, all nose to tail going into the tunnel turn. Balancino looking low.
Using the draft down long pond gives the 70 the lead through the short chute we come. Danny Ware to the inside. Here comes to the middle, James Scioli. They're going to make it 3 wide through turn 3.
Scioli decided last minute to back out of that. I don't think he thought for sure he was going to have the room to make that move work. He's going to have to settle back in and regroup. Danny Ware, we talked about him 25 laps ago and said his race was over, Eric. He's running second.
Big moves from the 18. Up the racetrack goes the 64 of Ed Robertson. He's going to get shoved out wide. Follows back to 5th, and now he's under fire from Garrett Grant in the 5, and there's the 49 of Alan Elwood. He's not out of this race yet.
James Scioli now making the move down to the bottom. He's going to try to take over second. Contact between him and the 18 in the tunnel turn. Going to drive both of them up the racetrack. They're able to corral it. What's it going to mean for the 7? Well, he's got the 64 of Ed Robertson and Garrett Grant all over the back bumper now. Looks like Scioli's still going to be able to squeeze through and nag that second spot away. But Danny Ware, he is fighting hard on the outside.
Side by side for second place down the front straightaway. James Scioli to the inside of Danny Ware. He's going to snag the second spot. Here comes Grant to the inside. Robertson up the track again in turn 1. Is going to open the door for the 0-2 of Jason Martin. Where did he come from? He's still a lap down. He's still 2 laps down.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably been one of the few guys to keep the car relatively clean, right? Being, starting the race 4 laps down has kind of allowed him to miss a lot of the carnage that took place early on. But he has got a fast race car, it looks like, in the O2, but he does have to get those laps back if he wants to compete for the win. Right now, though, Danny Ware hanging on in third, and I mentioned it with you, Eric. We were talking about him when we saw him get that front end damage around lap 10, around lap 15 or so. We said, man, that's going to pretty much end his night. He fell all the way back to 20th, and now somehow he's hanging on to third.
It was like Danny Ware did some of that fixing underneath caution. And what I was going to say about cautions, all these cautions have been helping Jordan Martin, who's 4 laps down. He's the only car off the lead lap, the first car off the lead lap. So he's getting wave arounds for every lap that we go under caution. He'll get the lucky dog each time.
He's slowly working his way back. Is the O2 of Jason Martin. He's 5th in line right now, but not 5th on the racetrack. That belongs to the driver behind him, the 49 of Alan Elwood. And for the moment being, Jacob Bell, it looks like these guys have finally sorted things out with 24 laps to go when they reach the stripe.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that just yet because we've seen how easy it's been for these guys to get into trouble and to get into a caution flag situation. So I'm not saying they're clearing out of the woods yet as we watch our leader here, Alan Balancino. A little late on our halfway rundown because all the yellow flags we had, but we're going to try to get through it here. He is our race leader now. He cycled to the top spot after qualifying 4th. He's led 9 laps on the night from Cleveland, Ohio. That number 7, he's out front here at Pocono. And right behind him, the number 7 of James Scioli, picking up sponsorship this week with rickshotsauce.com. Use code Scioli to save $7. It says there on the back bumper with that Elwood Designs paint scheme. So 5 laps led for the 7. Does he have something to say before this race is over?
Running in third is the 18 of Danny Ware in that Rajek Racing Development Toyota Supra. We documented the front end damage on that number 18. It so far has not hurt him late in the going. Up to third right now for VRA. Running at fourth. He's been involved in some stuff tonight. Has the number 5 of Garrett Grant, but he's been able to rebound up to fourth now in that Northern Capital Chevrolet Camaro. Gary Wells making his Lodgebox Series debut in the number 11. Quiet night in a night that's not been so quiet for the number 11 of Gary Wells, sporting the Chevrolet Camaro as well. You see the W designs on the side of that car.
Alan Elwood, he's fallen back to 6th after leading the first almost quarter of this race. He looked like he was the car to beat, but all of a sudden you get mired back in traffic and just the chaos that has ensued so far this race. He's gotten caught up in a few wrecks. 19 laps led, though, so far for him, but he is running 6th. He's going to have to try to make his way back to the front. And then right behind him, the 64 of Ed Robertson. He actually restarted as our race leader recently, and now he's fallen back to the 7th spot. Eric mentioned it. He's been sliding up the track pretty hard in turns 1 and turn 3, but it looks like he's got the handle of that machine now, and he's moving around Alan Elwood, actually.
Pit road for Alan Elwood. He's going to stop with 22 laps remaining just inside the fuel window that just opened up. David Weishart running in 7th now, was 8th, now 7th with the pit stop from the 49. Number 2, Sim Speed Shop Chevrolet Camaro on a different strategy. He's hoping to try to save enough fuel to get to the end of the race. Forrest Smith in the festive holiday-themed colors. The number 84 Chevrolet Camaro. Not too big of a splash made throughout this season, I would say, but definitely making a big one tonight. The driver from Charleston, Arkansas. And there's Michael Larch. This is probably the paint scheme of the night for me, Jacob Bell. This scheme is just incredible. Half fire, half ice. I mean, you can't go wrong with the track racer scheme at this time of year, right? I mean, that's just so incredibly well done. And he's having himself a night running in 9th currently.
It's actually going to go up to 8th with Ed Robertson hitting pit road. So then we're going to finish up here with our halfway rundown. Chris Seidefeiden running 9th. Man, has he had a chaotic night as well. We've seen him up into the wall a few times. Not always of his doing, but on that side of that race car right behind his name, you see the win sticker. That means he's locked into the playoffs. So not too big of a concern. Just hoping to get through tonight's race at Pocono. And we're going to round it off with Nick Trader back there in 10th, the One Mind to Design number 56 car. As we get back up front, Alan Balancino slowly getting reeled in by James Scioli. Actually, Scioli with a nice run to turn 3. We might see a battle for the lead, and we do. The 7's looking low at the start-finish line.
It's go time here in the Lodgebox series. Inside of 20 to go now. James Scioli to the bottom. He's going to take the lead through turn 1 on the 70 of Alan Ballacino. Promote James Scioli back to the top spot, and he's already driving away.
Yeah, he's had a really, really strong run these last few laps. I noticed he was inching closer to Balancino, but you mentioned it. It's like he just turned on the turbo all of a sudden, getting through turn 3 there and turn 1. He's got a huge margin already built up in just a corner and a half for the number 7. So James Scioli to the top spot. But the one question is going to be, does David Weishart have the ability to catch him and save fuel? Right now, Weishart 10 seconds back already, and he's back there in the 6th spot. So I believe that number 2 car is trying to save fuel to make it to the end. And do we have pit stops for the rest of our field coming up as well?
I definitely heard a downshift there coming toward pit road, but it was not coming down pit road. Something I actually didn't get the chance to cover with you guys pre-race was whether or not we were going to see shifting here in the Lodgebox series. We'll go ahead and ride on board with David Weishart and see what this driver is doing across as he goes down. Oh, there it is. RPM 2000. He is on the clutch through turns 1 and 2. The definitely not any shifting there for the 2 of Weishart, but we saw that is a great fuel saver. I mean, heck, that strategy's been employed. I remember it first vividly watching Brad Keselowski do this at Kansas one year.
Yeah, I'm in the same with you. That same memory of Brad Keselowski being the one to really clutch it in and try to save fuel. Weishart's going to have to do that tonight if he wants to win tonight's race. We know that most of the field still has to make at least one more pit stop to come down and get fuel and make it to the end of this race. You mentioned David Weishart right there on that window. He pitted with about, 24 laps to go, I believe? So
28.
28 laps to go, yeah. So he's going to be really, really far out and have to save, probably about 3 or 4 laps of fuel at least. So he started, though. It looks like that's the reason he's so far behind already, is because he's been saving since the drop of the green flag on this run.
He and Forrest Smith also behind him, I hear, cutting their motors out, and on my end on the sim. Meanwhile, up front, James Scioli, no fuel save up here for him or the number 70 of Alan Balancino. This is straight up raw pace between these drivers, and Scioli with a great run through the tunnel turn extends his lead up over a second now over the 70. Scioli is just going for it, knowing he needs to make one more stop. 17 remaining when they reach the stripe right here, and pitting 17 laps to go for James Scioli. Definitely can't make it 34 laps. So we'll see him on pit road at one more time tonight.
And it might be this time, right? You mentioned 34 laps to go. So if he wants to split that run down the middle, now would be the time for him to come down pit road. We'll see what he elects to do. Just in front, you can see as we're riding on board here, it looks like way out in front, he's got a lap car, and I believe that is actually the number 14 O'Connor O'Kresick, our last car on the lead lap. So O'Kresick with a lot of damage on that race car. He's not had an easy night whatsoever. Got involved in, I believe, our second caution of the night. So he's still trying to hang on, finish well for points. O'Kresick's actually one of the drivers who we need to see, or he needs to see himself manage to get back inside the top 20 in points. He's got a long road to go, but nights like tonight where you're hanging in and making the laps to get a better result than you would pulling it in the garage, that's going to be key for him.
Speaking of a garage, just cleaning up a couple of guys who have unfortunately gone to the garage for the night. Zachary Taylor in the 9, we saw the huge amount of damage to that car. The 15 of Cameron Hearn, bonus update coming on him in just a few moments. Brad Slaughter Jr. as well in the 81. Shane Theron in the 38, and James Shane Wolf actually did not start tonight in the Lodgebox series. The bonus update from Cameron Hearn, guys, is I've gotten some inside reports from the driver himself. The contact in turn 2 has caused a hardware failure. The wheel, and well, actually the rim for Cameron Hearn has broke, and he believes that's why his car turned so hard right into the outside wall. And unfortunately, he has no feedback in his wheel, and he has terrible noises when he turns it. He said he can only turn it about 400 degrees before the noise is just incredible. So unfortunately, that happened tonight. That happened through the contact. So maybe a force feedback issue that caused something there in the 15 car, but that's big news for Area iRacing as a whole, because that takes Cameron Hearn out of definitely tomorrow night. We'll see if he's able to secure a wheel through the holiday break. We do have 2 weeks off coming up before we head to Talladega in the new year.
You know, what's going to be interesting about that is the wheels are hard to come by right now because of all the shortages with the chips that go in these things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big thing we see in the tech space pretty much anywhere. Not only wheels, I mean, you're seeing it in computers and you know your graphics card prices went sky high through the pandemic, and it's just been quite a wild ride. I just watched Adam Capps blow up on the front stretch,
Here comes the
gentlemen,
7.
right in front of Ed Robertson in the 64. Meanwhile, James Scioli coming to pit road.
His final stop of the night in that number 7. It looks like the number 84 of Forrest Smith is going to cycle out to the lead. And you mentioned it. He was the one who came down on pit road with David Weishart. So if the fuel saving goes right, the 84 has a chance to make it to the end and maybe steal a win tonight.
4 tires. Looks like it's going on the number 7. Meanwhile, we see Adam Capps. This is over here on Long Pond, guys. I'm not sure he's going to be able to make it all the way around. He's going to pull over and reset. And he's lucky because it did not bring a yellow out to change the complexion of this race. Good job there from Adam Capps, making sure he was out of the way. So James Scioli, 4 tires fuel back out on the racetrack, but he is 24 seconds behind your leader here, Forrest Smith. So 24 seconds and 14 laps. Can he make that ground up, Jacob Bell?
I don't know. I mean, I think it depends how hard these guys start saving fuel, really. If they're, really clutching it in each and every corner, which we saw with the number 2 of David Weishart, I think it's possible. Those fresh tires are going to feel great on James Scioli's number 7 car, and there's a chance he can make up that ground, but we'll have to see how much time the 84 and the 2, for that matter, decide to give up with fuel saving. It's going to be tight all the way down to the end. We might see a photo finish with fuel strategy coming into play. I'm sure that's exactly what David Weishart wanted to see. He's been one of the big opponents to the fuel strategy and the fuel races we've had this season. So probably not an ideal situation for the number 2 team, but we'll see if maybe tonight he flips the script.
We're seeing him definitely learn and adapt. Alan Elwood just got passed by James Scioli. That was actually a pass for position back here in the field, and actually your effective lead. Alan, we saw a short pit as soon as the window opened to make it to the end, and he did manage to get track position on the 7 of Scioli. Now Scioli getting by him and driving away. Meanwhile, we saw Alan Balancino just put down the fastest lap, and that's actually a battle right now between the 70 and the 18. It's just changing hands. The 70 got by the 18 just a couple laps ago, and there you see Alan Balancino starting to stretch his legs a little bit over the 18 of Danny Ware. Danny having himself a great night rebounding from that front end damage. Meanwhile, out front, or actually your effective leader, if everyone still needs to stop, is James Scioli, but your overall leader, Forrest Smith, is trying to make it to the end of the race. We see him and David Weishart in the 2 making it down Long Pond here into the tunnel turn, and those motors are still cutting out, Jacob.
Yeah, just over 12 laps to go. When they hit the stripe, it's going to be 11 laps to go. The fuel strategy is going to be key. If I had to guess right now, David Weishart's probably done a better job saving than Forrest Smith, just because of the fact that Forrest Smith is the one in front of him. So Weishart's able to use a little bit of draft down these long straightaways. He's able to let off the throttle more. And meanwhile, though, he's given up a lot of time. That's going to be the key thing. I keep mentioning it. The time lost by these guys saving fuel is going to be key to see if James Scioli, Alan Balancino, Alan Elwood, I believe, also is on that strategy of trying to catch back up to these drivers. We'll see how it plays out, but nonetheless, it's a great opportunity for somebody like Forrest Smith to play upset. You mentioned his season so far, not been the biggest splash. He hasn't been up front on a lot of races contending for wins. Well, tonight, he finds himself out front. We got 11 laps to go, and he's got a chance to win it.
Yeah, I don't know if we can get our last lap times up on the boards. I know we've had some issues with it in the past, but there's Harold Darner coming in clutch, and we see the lap time difference. 2/10 between the front 2, and David Weishart's just going to go back around and take the lead. He says it's time to go with 11 to go. Coming to 10 to go. They are, 2 seconds a lap slower than James Scioli right now? I just don't know if this is going to play out. 10 to go. The difference is 16 seconds on the racetrack, Jacob Bell. It means 1.6 seconds. James Scioli needs to be faster per lap In this last time by, we'll see the lap time number right there for the 7 of 55.046. That's actually a 1.4 second difference between he and David Weishart, so that's not enough currently for
But
the
look
number
at
7.
the RPMs of David Weishart.
Now, Weishart, the RPMs are not, he's not clutching it, at least in the tunnel turn. We'll have to see what he does here in turn 3.
Turn
It
1, he
looks-
didn't either. So I think he has something on board telling him he is good to the end.
Oh, there he goes. Back to
Oh, he
clutch. I was
clutching
gonna
in
say,
there.
we
Okay.
have to see what
Clutch
he does in
third.
turn 3. I think 28 laps is a long time to stretch
It sure is.
I think it's doable, but I think you got to really be conservative with your numbers. I don't think as soon as you see that you can make it to the end, you step right back on it and go full out. I think you got to just constantly save until the very last lap of this race, and even then.
Now he's
some.
clutching
So,
here.
we'll
So
see.
he did not clutch the last time on lap 1 for certain, but he did this time.
You know what, Harold? I'm not sure he just didn't want to get out front of Forrest Smith, put a buffer between he and James Scioli if the 7 were to catch him. But that is, losing draft in front of you, which would definitely help in a fuel saving situation. Now he's clutching through the tunnel turn. I don't think he can make it just yet. I think he was testing the waters right there, guys. I don't see how he's going to save enough. But, I mean, it's incredible to see David Weishart, as you mentioned, Jacob Bell, completely go a different way. He's not been one to fuel save in the area iRacing leagues, and we're seeing him put on a show tonight with Forrest Smith in trying to make it happen.
And I think you were right on with your number about James Scioli. I don't know if he's gaining enough time a lap to get up there. We got now 8 laps to go. And
Difference was 2 seconds last lap.
But he's still 12 and a half seconds back. So if he's running 2 seconds faster, he can get there. But if he starts flirting with a second and a half faster, I don't know if that'll be enough. But you mentioned it 2 seconds quicker that last lap. Now he's 12 seconds down, and he's got a long way to go. He's got to get around 2 cars, and he's doing that now. He's got Michael Larch in front of him. He's making the move to the bottom on Chris Seidenfeld. And let's get to the 7 here as he's heading down into turn 2.
There is James Scioli getting by Chris Seidenfeld and Michael Larch, 2 guys that were trying to nurse home their cars to the end while saving fuel. So they are a little off pace from your leaders, but that is all the cars between the leaders, Forrest Smith and David Weishart, and the first driver on fresh tires, the 7 of James Scioli. It's a difference of 11 seconds when they cross the start-finish line right here as James Scioli gets there. His last lap, the 7 car, a 55.58 compared to a 57.30 for your leaders. So Jacob Bell, it's getting tight. I think that's enough right now for the 7, but he's got to be perfect these last 7 laps.
Yeah, he's got to be perfect, but he is gaining quite a bit. We see that margin down to 9.5 seconds now. These last few laps, he's definitely kicked it up a little bit. And if you're David Weishart, man, you just got to be upset thinking that this race could slip away in just a gallon of fuel. That's all it takes is less than a gallon of fuel to make a big difference in this race. And it's crazy to see what these races come down to, but it's not over yet. We still got 7 to go. When we hit the stripes, 6 laps to go. The margin's down to 9.2 seconds. But I got a little bit of a interesting twist to this battle as well here, Eric.
What do we got going on?
Last week, when we were at Darlington Raceway, there was 2 drivers that were a little bit not happy with each other on track, and it was the 2 of David Weishart, and guess who the other one was?
I'm gonna go with the 7 of James Scioli, the guy trying to catch him.
It was the 7 of James Scioli. They were racing really hard at Darlington, which is already a difficult track enough. A little bit of contact was made, and it actually was the 7 who was on the inside of the 2. Knocked David Weishart into the wall, gave him a good bit of damage, and kind of ended his chances at winning. James Scioli still managed to, go on and I believe finished 3rd last week. But David Weishart, he came out on fresh tires purposely and got right behind the number 7 of James Scioli the last 20 laps or so, and was just trying to intimidate him into making a mistake. So the rivalry is there between these 2, which might add a little bit of a twist to this finish.
Just another layer of controversy in this race. Gap down to 7.5 seconds for James Scioli, a 55.59 that last lap, almost 2 seconds faster than David Weishart. With just inside 5 laps to go, Jacob Bell, that is enough for James Scioli to get there right now. And on top of that, David Weishart and Forrest Smith still need to be saving fuel.
Yeah, it's looking good right now for James Scioli. These last handful of laps, he's gained quite a bit, down to 6.5 seconds. Weishart actually gaining a little bit through the tunnel turn, so he's definitely not saving in turn 2. We've seen him saving in turn 1 and turn 3.
Looks like we have an engine. Connor O'Kresick.
Yep, Connor O'Kresick, similar situation to what we saw with the 55 of Adam Capps. That engine let go. He's off track, and he's actually going to take it down to the runoff road between turn 3 and 4. He's got a little bit of speed left in that race car, so I believe he'll make it back to pit road and will stay green.
Certainly something that not pretty much any driver out here does not want to see anymore. If anyone has a set of tires left in the pits, they could be a real beneficiary if we were to see a late race yellow here from the 14 machine not being able to make it back.
Forrest Smith, I believe, has a set.
I believe the 14, he's about 30 foot from pit road. The motor's blown, but he's got 27 miles per hour of speed under that race car, and he has entered pit road with 25 miles per hour speed, so he should be good, and we should stay green here for these last 4 laps.
Inside 4 to go. The gap down to 5 seconds between James Scioli and David Weishart. Scioli on fresh tires, 15 laps fresher tires, and enough fuel to make it to the end. David Weishart questionable on fuel. He's got to go 28.5 laps since he last pitted. 29 laps by the end of the race. If he can make it there, he and Forrest Smith in the 84, but Forrest is falling away from the 2 of Weishart. Forrest needing to save a little bit harder, perhaps going too hard earlier in the run compared to Mr. Weishart. We'll get a shot inside the sim. We'll see the look of David Weishart. How hard is he saving fuel? How focused is he through each of these final few laps? You see him gripping the wheel right there, checking his numbers up and down in his sim. Just 2 laps to go if he can get to the line with enough fuel.
The margin has not gone down as quick as James Scioli needed it to the last few laps. He's going to hit the stripe with 2 laps to go now. David Weishart, our race leader. James Scioli only gained a little bit over a second that last time around, so the gap has definitely been staying a little bit stronger for David Weishart with 2 laps to go. Maybe he's at the point where he thinks he can make it to the end.
Definitely playing with the throttle.
The pace has been picked up by the number 2. He was inside the 57-second bracket. Now he's back into the 56-second bracket for his lap times. Meanwhile, Forrest Smith still a 57.23. He's going to get gobbled up by James Scioli here late, probably on the last lap. James Scioli now 3.3 seconds between he and David Weishart. Through the short chute comes the number 2 into turn 3. He's going to look for the white flag as he comes off of the final corner. One more time. Does he have enough fuel?
Look at the eyes on David Weishart. His eyes are wide. He's talking to his teammates. White flag.
I don't know if he's good or not. We'll have to see. The white flag is out. We'll get a wide shot here because James Scioli is starting to track him down a little bit, but he's still got to get around Forrest Smith, and we still got to see if that number 2's got enough fuel in the tank.
1 to go. 1 to go, presented by 1 to Go Studios. David Weishart doing everything he can to make sure he saves enough fuel. Meanwhile, James Scioli, seeing blood in the water, is going to get by Forrest Smith in the 84 for second place. Still 3 seconds separating him from David Weishart.
Try to look at Weishart's body language.
Turn 2.
I think he's out of fuel.
No, he's still got fuel.
It potentially sputtered on him there as he comes through turn 3. The number 2, David Weishart, is gonna save enough. David Weishart reaches the checkered flag first, just a few hundred feet in front of James Scioli. David Weishart flips the script and is able to save enough and win a fuel mileage race in the Lodgebox series.
There'll be no burnout. He doesn't have enough for that, I'm sure.
As the fuel pressure starts to fall away from the number 2, what a drive by David Weishart. What a strategy call to change his luck with fuel mileage races and get himself a victory here in the Lodgebox series. James Scioli just coming up 2.4
There's all
seconds
3
short at the line. And Forrest Smith did have enough gas. He just couldn't push it. 3.6 seconds off the lead. That'll be our top three that we'll talk to post-race here coming up on the Area iRacing Twitch channel, with coverage brought to you by One to Go Studios.
And I know that victory was a little bittersweet, or I should say extra sweet for David Weishart, knowing he beat one of his rivals, the number 7 of James Scioli, there to the end. I'm sure the respect being paid between those two drivers as well, but what an interesting race. And credit to James Scioli and Forrest Smith for making it interesting there at the end. We really had no clue who was going to win when that white flag came out between any of the top three. Weishart ultimately has enough fuel in the tank, and he's got enough fuel in the tank to do a burnout here in the Lodgebox Series. His first victory of the year in that number 2. Congratulations go out to David Weishart. We'll get a chance to talk to him here.
I did not think he had enough.
He does have enough to get a couple donuts in there. Surprising. I haven't had enough for my donuts and fuel mileage races this season in the Cup Series. Make sure, fans, to check out the Cup Series coming up tomorrow night here on the Area iRacing Twitch channel. Of course, brought to you by Sim Speed Shop. And a special thank you to Sim Speed Shop for their support of the Sim Speed Shop Cup Series here in the Area iRacing leagues. Be sure to visit www.simspeedshop.com to find all the items you need to complete your virtual racing setups in your sim rigs, such as button boxes, wheels, racing gear, and more. Fans, be sure to visit www.simspeedshop.com for all your sim gear. Post-race interviews coming up here on One to Go Studios. We'll go ahead and get a hold of our winner if he's ready. David Weishart joining us here in the booth. David, you finally flipped the script. Elation up here in the box in the broadcast booth that you won a fuel mileage race in an Area iRacing league. You win the Lodgebox Series Appalachian Mountains 175. How does it feel?
Man, as you know, man, I've complained a lot about these fuel mileage deals, and I don't know how I won it. I never thought I'd win a fuel mileage race. I'm just not that good at it. And I knew I burned a set of tires early when we had that first caution, and it just felt like every time we'd get 5, 6, 7, 8 laps on the tires, another caution would come out and we'd be off sequence or whatever. And that big yellow came out with Cameron Hearn and all that, and I told my team, I said, that's the race right there, because there's nothing that can happen that can save the race, because everybody else has an extra set of tires and I only had one. And I can't remember exactly what lap it came out, but we got a yellow, and I was like, my only hope here is we go green the rest of the way and I can stretch it on fuel, which is not my strong suit. So for the first 20 laps of that run, really 25 laps actually, I was clutching in every corner. And with like 5 to go, I saw Scioli was in third and gaining pretty quick. I was like, I gotta go. If I run out, I run out. And actually, I could have went around one more time. So I'm pretty proud of myself for saving that amount of fuel. And but overall, it was a good race. I definitely didn't have the fastest car tonight, but sometimes you gotta be more lucky than good.
Absolutely.
Sorry to cut you off there. I was gonna mention. You mentioned the 7 trying to track you down there at the end. I kind of touched on the little race you guys had going last week at Darlington. Was it extra sweet to get that victory with James Scioli, especially with it being a fuel mileage race? But overall, how did that victory feel against this competition we had out here tonight?
It was stiff competition, man. Like I said, I have the fastest car tonight, and this is probably my best track. So to be fair, I didn't put it. I've had a busy week. I haven't had time to put in any practice. So I came in a little off. Didn't care for the setup too much. I don't know what was going on. My whole team was screaming the car was loose, and they're screaming it's loose. I'm going through practice like just plowing to the wall. So I don't know if it was just like a practice me driving, but I mean, any win is sweet. The competition every week is just, I mean, it's second to none. So whatever happened last week between me and the 7, I don't hold any grudges against him. It was just that was hard racing, at a tough track. So. He's one of the best in the series, and but I'm happy to beat him though.
And Davis Harold up here. I was looking at your body language because we had you on there. I thought for sure you were thinking you didn't have it, but were you just basically playing with us, knowing we'd be on you?
I didn't think I was ever gonna have it. Like I said, I'm not good at this fuel saving deal. And you can ask anybody. I have complained about fuel mileage races, but it's rewarding. I hate to race that way, but it's rewarding when it works out for you. So yeah, I didn't think I was gonna make it, but I actually saved more fuel than I thought I did.
So I talked to you earlier in the week, David. You mentioned to me how much you love Pocono. Just how meaningful is it to get your first win in the Lodgebox series here at Pocono, of all places to get your first win at?
Yeah, it's a track that every time I see it on a schedule, I circle it. I know it's a good shot at a win. It's I've told a couple guys this week. If I was tied for the points lead, and I got to pick the track, Pocono would be the track I'd pick. So I'm happy to come out of here with a win. We still got one more to go this week. Haven't put in any practice for that car either. So hopefully I get a few laps turned tomorrow, and we'll see how that all shakes out.
Well, before I let you go, a couple more for you. We got a 2-week break coming up for Christmas and New Year's, so get that time off to go spend with family or however you'd like. And then we come back to Talladega. Just how much are you looking forward to a super speedway race and getting back to a high banked 2.5 miles super speedway?
Plate racing's not it's not my favorite. I've had good finishes, I've had bad finishes, just like everybody else. It's a crapshoot. So I go into that race a lot easier now that I'm locked in to the playoffs. I don't got to worry about that anymore. So yeah, that's my mindset. From the rest of the season, it's just gonna go out and have fun.
Alrighty, well, before we let you get out of here, David, who helps you get the runs that you do week in and week out on that number 2 car?
Just thank Sim Speed Shop for letting me put their logo on the car. They do a lot for the league. Thank my corporate teammates tonight at Samson. We all work pretty well together tonight. Thank you all for broadcasting and everybody watching and all the sponsors for what they do.
Alrighty, well, that is number 2. Your winner tonight, David Weishart from Samson's Motorsport in the Sim Speed Shop Chevrolet Camaro. Thank you, David, for joining us. We'll go ahead and get a hold of our second place finisher now. Jacob Bell, I think you have the chance to catch up with the 7 of James Scioli.
Yeah, sitting here with James Scioli after a great second place run in that new looking Rick's Hot Sauce machine. But James, we thought you had a chance to get back to David and maybe steal the win back in your favor at the end of the race. What was it like trying to track him down those last 20 laps?
Well, first, I just want to say a big thank you to Rick's Hot Sauce for coming on board, finally getting the blank number 7 car out of here, and Alan Elwood for making me the best looking paint scheme on the track. So thanks to those guys first and foremost, and I was glad to put them on here at Pocono. As for the race, I knew I didn't want to be fuel saving at the end. That just doesn't really play into how I drive, so I figured I would just run as fast as I could, run about 20 qualifying laps and see if I could get to David there at the end. And I'm still not sure exactly how he made it because I knew it was going to be tight, but he did, and congrats to him. And just a couple more laps and I would have had him.
I was giving Eric there a chance to see if he wanted to jump in, but I'll go ahead and take it back. So I asked I asked David the same kind of question about last week's race at Darlington. We saw the hard race in between both of you guys. David said it's kind of in the past. He wasn't really thinking about it tonight, but was that on your mind any when you were trying to get back to him?
No, it wasn't. What happened at Darlington was last week, and I figured I would just move on and just try and focus on this race. And he's a great driver. I got nothing against him, so happy to see him win, and wish I could have got him, but glad to see him win.
James, we saw the strategy choice there late to save that set of tires and actually come on the attack. Did you feel like there was anything you could have done differently through that final stint, just to save even just a couple seconds was all the difference was at the line?
I was thinking about it. I don't think I could have, just with, all the guys who were slower than me got right out the way and nobody really held me up. So I don't think that there was 2 seconds there. Maybe if I would have pitted a lap earlier, it would have helped, but I don't know if I would have got there.
All right, well, you got Talladega looming overhead. You get a 2-week break for Christmas and New Year's. Of course, go enjoy your time, but come back to Talladega. Just how good do you feel about such a wild card race in a super speedway?
I'm excited to go to Talladega, especially after Pocono, a track that I really don't enjoy and didn't have a lot of confidence going to. I think Talladega will be a good time, and hopefully we can play the right strategy and run up front.
Alrighty, well, you already highlighted it at the top of the interview, but before we let you get out of here, we always let you say thanks to who helps you get the runs done week in and week out on that number 7 car. So go ahead, take us through who gets it done on that 7 car.
Well, first, a big thanks to Area and Lodgebox for the series. Without you guys, obviously, we wouldn't be running here. And even though I joined late, it's been a blast. Definitely made my Wednesday nights a lot better. So thanks to you guys, and thanks to you guys in the booth. I try and catch all the races I can throughout the week, and you guys do a great job keeping it entertaining. So thank you to you guys. And again, it's code Scioli. Rick's Hot Sauce will get you $7 off. rickshotsauce.com. So thank you.
Alrighty, that is our second place finisher, James Scioli, in the number 7. Coming home just 2.4 seconds back of the winner, David Weishart. Now we get a chance to talk to the other man that played the fuel strategy game like David Weishart, the 84 Forrest Smith. Forrest, he came up just a little bit short tonight. Did you kind of run it too close on fuel? How did you end up falling away so much from Weishart there at the end?
I had plenty of fuel to run probably another lap. The only thing that happened was my right front was burnt, so I couldn't chase him down once he passed me.
Yeah, getting there at the end. Oh, sorry to cut you off again there, Eric. Getting there at the end, I saw, the contact with the wall on that last lap kind of allowed the 7 of Scioli to get around you. Were you trying to push it there on that last lap, thinking you still had a chance in case that 2 car did run out of fuel?
I was trying in case the 2 car did run out of fuel. With the pace of the 7 was coming pretty quickly, so I wasn't going to block him to win, but I thought I had a chance on that last lap.
So you walk out of Pocono with still a 3rd place finish. I believe this is the first time we've been able to chat with you all season. So first podium of the year. Get to go into the 2-week break for holiday, and then we come back around to Talladega, looming overhead beyond that. Just how good do you feel your chances are at a super speedway?
Any given person can win at Dega. I feel like my chance to win is the same as everybody else's. It's just a matter of being there at the end. If I'm there at the end, I've got a great chance to win. So does everybody else.
Alrighty, Forrest. Well, before we let you get out of here, we always let you take time to thank the guys that help you get it done on that number 84. So tell us about the different sponsors and the paint scheme that you got on that car tonight.
All right, so I'd like to thank UrbanX. I'd like to thank One Mind to Design, Drew and Nick Trader, and James Shane Wolf. Those guys, they help get me ready for this week and every week. I'd like to thank Dustin Carroll for designing this Christmas scheme. He always does a great job on any scheme he makes. And I just like to thank them all.
Alrighty, well, that is our 3rd place finisher tonight, Forrest Smith. Thank you for taking the time, Forrest, to join us here in the broadcast booth. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for post-race interviews here on the Area iRacing Twitch channel. We'll go ahead with our Elwood Designs race recap. The Appalachian Mountains 175 saw quite a bit of action with David Weishart coming out on top, leading 16 laps en route to victory. We did document that we had the highest number of cautions pretty much in a race all season, averaging 1.5 cautions a race. We blew that number out of the water with 5 cautions for 15 laps tonight of the 70 that were run. 22 drivers were able to take the green flag, and the fastest driver on track all race was Alan Ballacino. He turned the fastest lap in 54.728. A couple drivers also snagging some points for 0 incident races, including your winner, David Weishart. We'll go through our final classifications for the race. David Weishart, your winner from James Scioli and Forrest Smith. The 2 in the 84 pulling the fuel strategy. Meanwhile, everyone else choosing to take pit stops the rest of the way home. Alan Ballacino in 4th. Danny Ware rebounds from front end damage to get home in 5th. What a great rebound redemption day for that driver. The 5 of Garrett Grant, we saw him tangle with, I believe, the 56 of Nick Trader earlier on with some huge damage there, and he's able to rebound to 6. So good run for Garrett as well. Ed Robertson, solid run. We saw him up front quite a few times tonight in 7th. Chris Seidenfaden is able to come home 8th. Gary Wells on debut will finish in 9th. And Alan Elwood, unfortunately, one of the fastest cars all night long, was knocked out of it pretty late there, but he was able to rebound to 10th place, 26 seconds back from the lead.
Michael Larch is going to bring it home 11th in that fire and ice looking number 6 machine. Andrew Player brings it home 12th, and I heard a few drivers talking about no front end on that machine for the last 30 laps or so, and he still manages a 12th place finish. Nicholas Trader brings home a 13th place finish for One Mind to Design. Kyle C comes home 14th, our final driver on the lead lap. Jordan Martin starts the race 4 laps down and comes home 15th in the number 02. Connor Okresic finishes 16th tonight, blowing an engine with a few laps to go. Adam Capps, Zachary Taylor, Cameron Hearn, and Brad Slaughter Jr. round out our top 20 finishers. They all were involved in an incident and a caution flag tonight, as well as Shane Theron and the 83 of James Shane Wolf, who did not start the race tonight. And that was our finishing results here for the Lodgebox Series, race number 9 at Pocono.
I know the points have been updated. I'm not sure that production has had the chance to be able to grab them, so I will at least tell you here over the air that Cameron Hearn still maintains his point lead over Shane Theron. They really didn't move anywhere since both drivers were involved in heavy accidents tonight. Alan Elwood was able to close a little bit of ground. He's now 48 points out of the championship lead. David Weishart jumps over Ed Robertson for 4th, and that battle 49 and 52 points back from the points lead, respectively. Biggest mover was Danny Ware, gaining 7 spots in the championship and only his 3rd start this season in the Lodgebox Series. A couple guys not really moving around the bubble all that much. Kyle Sieg was able to jump Ricky Springer, with Ricky not being able to come out tonight. And also James Scioli with a great run, and Forrest Smith, for that matter, both drivers making their names well known in the series. Andrew Player not able to capitalize, with the guys around him having some issues tonight. So that is your points update. Cameron Hearn still at the top. And of course, with those 5 wins this season, he is 1 of 3 locked in. Now 4 if James Scioli is able to meet the minimum start requirement. We'll have to check on that for you in 2 weeks' time to see whether or not he is able to. Harold Darner, we'll go with your final thoughts from Pocono tonight.
Well, definitely, we took to the hard side, I guess, with all the cautions we had. But that's a lot of guys looking to get themselves a place into the playoffs before we get to the break. Some guys, it bit them. But we do have tomorrow night. A lot of these drivers do double duty, so we'll see a lot of them try to tame it tomorrow night as we get to the Cup Series.
Jacob Bell, we saw quite a wild race, as Harold just documented, and fuel strategy coming down to the end. Were you really surprised with how David Weishart was able to flip his script on fuel strategy and actually pull out a win?
I was very surprised, and obviously big congrats out to David Weishart for being able to pull it off. But I do have an interesting note that I'd like to leave you guys off with going into tomorrow night's race. Monday night at Pocono, James Shane Wolf got the win, his first win of the season in that series. Tuesday night, Justin Gann brought it home in the Northern Capital Truck Series, his first win of the season in that series. Tonight, we all watched David Weishart claim his first Lodgebox Series win. Tomorrow night, do we see a new winner in the Sim Speed Shop Cup Series to keep the streak alive at Pocono?
I have an answer for that, and that is you're going to have to tune in and find out. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night at 8:45 p.m. here on the Area iRacing Twitch channel. One to Go Studios, Harold Darner going to bring you all the action with his guys in the booth. I think he's going to have Hunter Sleppy, maybe also Ken Cushy up there. We'll have to check that out tomorrow night for the Sim Speed Shops Cup Series race number 9 from Pocono. And there are 4 to go in the championship as well, including tomorrow night's race. That's going to do it tonight here from Pocono. Make sure to tune in 3 weeks' time. We get a 2-week break for Christmas and New Year's. We'll be back in the new year. January, I'm looking for the date here. January 5th, you will see Lodgebox Series action once again, and it'll be from Talladega. So Wednesday, January 5th, at 8:45 p.m. Eastern. But be sure to stay tuned right here tomorrow night for the final race before the holiday break in the SimSpeed Chop Cup Series. For Harold Darner and One to Go Studios and Jacob Bell joining me here in the booth tonight, I'm Eric Wineland saying thank you all for tuning in. Go have a safe and happy holiday. We will see you guys tomorrow night. If not, we will see you in 3 weeks' time. And of course, make sure you tune in Friday night in 2 days' time for the charity event that is going on with Area and their initiative to raise money for the American Red Cross for the storm disaster relief for areas such as Mayfield, Kentucky, that were hit terribly hard by a devastating tornado. So be sure to check out that link. It's been in the Twitch chat all night long. Go check them out and maybe even come out and race with a $5 donation on Friday night. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you all next time.
What an exciting race brought to you by One to Go Studios. Here they come out of turn 4 to the white flag, and it's One to Go. Thank you to all our sponsors, drivers, and viewers. We'll see you at the next turn.